of power. Here's something strange. Bissent made a fortune working for the dreaded George Soros decades ago. Apparently, old Scott has a different take these days. President Trump is a shrewd chief executive, but he's loaded up his roster with loyalists, some of whom are short-timers. Back after this. For years, we've been told what we can and cannot take, like ivermectin was dismissed, not because it didn't work, but because it threatened big pharma. You should be able to control your health decisions. That's why it's smart to have the essential meds on hand, like ivermectin, antibiotics, and much more. All Family Pharmacy handles everything, shipped straight to your door. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use code BILL10 for 10% off. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A little spot rain not out of the question this evening. Pretty low chance, though. Most stay dry, mostly cloudy overnight, and a better chance Friday for some rain. About a 60% chance for some scattered showers and storms in the morning to the afternoon. Looks like it'll dry out in the evening. Low of 64 and a high of 79 for Friday. Just have to dodge some raindrops from morning to afternoon. And then Saturday, mostly cloudy in the morning, then partly cloudy. A little cooler, though. A high of 68. A little warmer Sunday, partly cloudy and a high of 75. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Having your first cup of coffee? Mike's on his third. This is Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
Well, we've made it to the end of another one. This has been kind of a long week, and there's been a lot of big news that's happened, not just nationally, but both in Missouri and in Illinois as well. So we're going to kind of recap, go into the weekend fresh, get it all off your chest. But a little bit later on today, this is going to be fun. J.C. Corchoran, longtime legendary DJ here in St. Louis, back on the radio, back on News Talk STL in St. Louis here. And I know a lot of people have asked me, they've said, man, JC Corcoran, is this going to work? Is this going to fit? Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. JC has a lifetime. He has a career of great stories and great interviews with some of the most classic rock musicians out there. And he's going to be sharing them starting this weekend right here on News Talk STL with his Wayback Machine. And we're going to talk to JC and get a preview of it at 8:35. This is going to be a lot of fun. All right. One of the more colorful discussions that we had this week, Tony Kinnett from the Daily Signal. And when Tony's on, you never know what's going to be said. And as expected and as normal, the conversation went completely off the rails. Here's what happened. We used to say that, all these principled conservatives eventually get into infighting, and then you got to, settle on the most electable candidate. And the Democrats, they're so good at circling the wagons and defending themselves, but they're eating each other like a buffet right now. And I'm here for it. Let me play a little bit of this soundbite. This is Elizabeth Warren on some leftist little podcast, and I think, dude, it's a guy. It's just kind of like the soy boy guy here. Okay. All right. So here's this, because he's actually calling her out on lying about Joe Biden's mental capacity. Here's just a little bit of it.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline.
And they both did a Vance glance at each other. He's like, really, Liz? And she's like, why are you doing this to me? And it's like, when he sounds and looks like the tough guy in the conversation, Tony, the left has a problem.
So one of the best parts of this, and first of all, I do want to point out very quickly that I'm a little offended that you would talk about part of Illinois breaking away and like dangle that in front of the Indiana nationalists who you know will someday conquer all of Illinois and push Chicago into Lake Michigan. So we're going to talk about that later. I swear. Anyway, no, back to Elizabeth Warren. I don't know what Democrat PR firm they all go to, where they teach people that if you're ever in a bind and you've been caught in the headlights and you look stupid, say the word look over and over. And at the end of that clip, she's like, look, look, it's like Joe Biden all over again. So she is asked about Joe Biden's mental health and then somehow ends up looking like she has Joe Biden's mental health. It's incredible.
Otis, we missed you, buddy. The Gabe Fiver here. Now, in all of these discussions, as we watch kind of the Democrats kind of struggle to find a message, to find leaders, I'm looking at their bench. I don't really see a lot of talent, but apparently, people like AOC are getting pushed up into our faces here.
I saw a big piece on JB Pritzker last week.
JB Pritzker is another one.
It's going to be a small piece.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a big piece.
There's nothing small regarding JB Pritzker.
Probably has icing on it. But there's also people like David Hogg, and I believe he was actually on that podcast if I recall, or a similar one.
He did a number of them, but he was like, if you're not leftist enough, we need to start primarying our own people, because he's 10 years old and he doesn't know how politics works. And he got his butt whooped, and he ended up making a big donation to like the Democratic House campaign committee. It's like, well, first of all, wait a minute, where did David Hogg come up with all that money? And secondly, he got a hard lesson in keep your mouth shut, scrawny white boy.
Yeah. So what do you make of the Democrats bench? Do they have anybody that's going to make a big comeback? To kind of push, I guess, in the midterms and then later on in the very open presidential race that's to follow.
To say this elaborately, no. They have no bench at all. They've got nothing. I mean, it's really awkward. It's like an Adam Sandler movie where they would pan over to the bench on like some kind of a game, and then the crew just looks a little bit rough. I mean, you've got David Hogg, who's like Ellen DeGeneres' gay son. I mean, that's like it's basically the theme of David Hogg, who just talks about himself all the time. And then he went on the ABC this week because they thought, this guy's already gotten pimp smacked by his own party. Let's bring him onto the Sunday show and have him debate with someone. The dude falls for the very first baited question he hears about MS-13, and he starts losing it over Kilmar Abrego Garcia with MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles. And he's like, oh, that guy's not an MS-13. You know damn well he's not. And it's like, dude, how could you have made this man the vice chair of your party? Oh, it's incredible.
Good morning. This is producer Jerome chiming in. So it looks like we're all in agreement that the DNC is running the silliest clowns in the circus right now for their frontrunners. But the concern I have is that their voting base are falling for it. They are engaging. If you look at some of these videos, they do draw crowds and get good responses comparative to what they want. And so I guess the strategy going forward for our side do we match that level of clown show, or like where do we go from here to set up to make sure we don't have the entire circus re-entering into the White House for 2028?
Wait a minute. Are you saying voters aren't insisting on high intellect in their politics anymore?
Yes, I'm saying that there are uninformed voters and we need to rethink about how we allow people to vote in this country. And I'm saying it now.
Well, first of all, when I heard you say producer Jerome here, I thought you were about to tell me that you guys had to take me off the air because like too raw.
Yeah, your 5 minutes are up.
Like, finally happened. No, to answer your question, we're a different kind of clown show. Like we're just totally. The Democrats have like two brain cells to rub together, but we're the kind of people who notice that we're running a race and then nobody is around us because we're winning the race because, again, our opponents are stupid. And so then we stop and we like start looking at our shoes and like picking dandelions in the outfield. And then the really dumb kid passes us and wins the race. And this is kind of what you're seeing now in the party, by the way, because the House and the Senate on the Republican side, again, you have Democrats who are licking drywall over MS-13. And we can't even pass a budget because Thomas Massey's upset that it's not libertarian enough. And then Nancy Mace is upset no one's paying attention to how she looks. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to wrestle someone behind a meth lab. It's like, guys, come on. We've had the best opportunity we've had in years, and yet we've got to go, well, I think Pete Hegseth is bad. Yeah, well, I think Mike Waltz is bad. Like, guys, please focus. You just want to slap them with an open hand.
And if we can agree on something, Nancy Mace looks good. I will fill that void.
Hey, man, I used that example for a reason.
And I appreciate it.
Now, Tony, Tony, one of the things that worries me, and you mentioned this just a second ago, that this is one of the greatest opportunities the right has right now, both electorally, philosophically, to sort of capture. We've got a young generation that's polling to be possibly the most right-leaning that we've ever seen of a young generation. So we're poised to have a very bright future, but it looks like everybody's squandering the opportunity.
Look, I'm from Indiana, and as you know, we pride ourselves in having good basketball teams that don't win. And this is kind of the same vibe that I get. You'll be the beginning of Purdue or an IU season, and everyone will be all excited. Oh, man, this is the year. And I look at all of them, and after I finish crying, I wipe my eyes and remind everyone that no one snatches defeat from the jaws of victory quite like an Indiana basketball team. It hurts me to this day. However, I see the same thing happening with the GOP in midterms, and I'm hoping, because there are some surprise victories that Trump has sprouted forth so far, but these things are only going to be worthwhile if they are codified into law. Executive orders are great. I like them. You like them. We enjoy them. Nothing like watching some goober cry over thinking that Elon Musk is going to deport her to Afghanistan. It's a good time.
Yes.
But if it's not codified into law, the second somebody else gets into power, all of that turns on a dime, and a door always hurts your face a little more when it's slammed at you swinging the other way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And right now I'm worried about the Republicans, particularly in the House, trying to start playing defense and thinking about the next elections instead of going on offense, securing the victories that we elected them to do, and then securing the wins in 2026 by having a record to run on that people sent them into office. But something happens when you go into Washington, D.C., that spine starts to deteriorate a little bit or a lot.
I mean, I'm just worried because I'm flying into DC at the end of this week, and so as much as I'm eager to get scoliosis, I'm really hoping that with the Republican House under Mike Johnson's leadership, that we are actually going to see some of this narrow majority stuff work in Republicans' favor, maybe as a pep rally call, or maybe they fall asleep at the wheel. It really does depend on the economy at this point as to what gets them there. And right now, believe it or not, for like the first time in history, the one thing that Republicans do not have a unified vision on is the economy.
Oh, no, yeah, 100%. Absolutely. That's absolutely correct. All right. Tony Kinnett, Daily Signal. We've already tagged you on our social media, but what's the best way for people to follow the work that you do? We got to have you back on. That's my fault for not calling sooner, but we really appreciate you having back on, Tony.
I appreciate you guys. You can find me on just Google Kinnett, Kinnett. You put Tony in front of it, and you ignore the pop-up ads, and you'll find me.
Precisely, exactly. And maybe he could someday be the governor representing the eastern part of our listing area once Indiana conquers Illinois.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. From the river to the lake.
Oh no!
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Call that Plan B.
Okay.
When it comes to a messaging for a campaign. There, Tony. We'll talk to you soon, my friend. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks.
All right, the number here, 314-912-1019. Don't forget, if you have not already downloaded our app, please do that now. If you haven't updated the app in the last couple months, make sure you've got that updated version, and then play around with it. Hit that, hit that go button. Get the wheel of fun. Would love to start getting people to send us some voicemails because there's all sorts of ways to be a part of the program, including recording your comments or your questions and then just sending them right in, so you don't have to stay there on hold on the phone or anything like that. So check it out. A lot of new features. It's still completely free. to use and free to download. So hopefully we'll be talking to you a lot through that, or right here on the phone at 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
She will collect you with the carnal stare while you're suspended there. She evaluates your heart's condition.
News, analysis, opinion.
Don't always agree, but in love listening to your radio station.
This is tyrannical stuff they're doing.
Elections have consequences. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Dr. Randy Tobler here, and I know that when you're looking for a dentist, you have to make sure you choose a dental practice that's compatible with you and the needs of your family. Well, I'd like to tell you about my dentist, Dr. Dan Cusimano, and his partner, Megan Dwyer, and their team at Advanced Dentistry at St. Charles. The great team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles can accommodate all of your cosmetic and restorative needs because their passion is general dentistry. Implants, crowns, bridges, even dentures. That what you need the most is what they'll provide in a personalized, focused way. And they can provide therapeutic and cosmetic options like Botox and dermal fillers. Get to know them and all they have to offer by calling 636-978-0226 or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
That's Advanced Dentistry Now. 636-978-0226. Or visit them on the web at advanceddentistrynow.com.
Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper.
Hey there, Chris Cooper here, Serenity Wealth Management. Now, have you ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes in Washington and how it affects local rules and regulations taking place right here in the state of Missouri? This weekend, I've got a special guest joining us from D.C., political insider and lobbyist Carl Stark, joining us and talking a little bit about what happens and how it affects folks right here in the state of Missouri.
Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Let's get the conversation started, St. Louis. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
You know, it's weird that this question has been an ongoing one in Missouri, at the Capitol. How young is too young to get married, and why are some Republicans still arguing for underage marriage in Missouri?
That is a really good question.
Yeah, and they're now making a pro-life argument for underage marriage.
That's not the hill that I'm willing to die on.
It's odd. It's weird. And it's like the couple of the super uber conservative, really far to the right guys that I would probably agree on a lot of other stuff with. But now I see an article that they're arguing and making a pro-life argument for maintaining, because underage marriage is actually still legal in Missouri. It's one of the states that's still allowed. So here's what I'm gonna do. I got a few basic details. Once Gabe gets here, we'll talk about this in a little more depth at 6:20. It's just a very odd thing to me.
Yeah, conceptually.
Very weird. And it's even weirder now that I'm the dad of a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's into her 20s now. She's in her approaching her late 20s now. But I keep going back to when she was, a teenager in high school. What would I have thought with this argument at that time?
She's always going to be your little girl at heart.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true. I know that's a cliche, but that's absolutely true. So, all right. It is 5:51 right now. That's producer Jerome. I'm Mike. We have got a new program here on News Talk STL starting tomorrow. The Wayback Machine with JC Corcoran. That's going to be Saturdays from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. That's a lot of music and a lot of storytelling and basically a lot of rock history. So we're stepping away from the politics and the news and all of that. And JC's just bringing his DJ plethora of knowledge base to News Talk STL. Matter of fact, we're going to talk to JC right
Ooh.
around 8. I think it's about 8:35. I think JC is going to be on with us.
Yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be a great time.
Yeah, JC, longtime DJ here. He was with was with Casey forever. And then he was part of starting up another classic rock station here in the metro area. I don't remember the name of that station. I remember they had a pretty good playlist. And then JC will be with us here in a little bit. So, all right. A couple cool things going on with sports stuff this weekend. Cardinals game is going to be broadcast over the air.
Ooh.
Yep. That is, there's a new channel, Matrix, which is channel 32 over the air. It's funny because I don't really subscribe to any, I don't have cable other than to have the cable company do my internet in my place. But I don't actually subscribe, so I can not watch a lot of sports. So I actually think it's really cool when there's something over the air, which to me is just a more natural fit. I wish it were financially viable.
Yes.
To do that. I mean, I grew up watching, during the day. Now, of course, it had to be piped in on what used to be rudimentary cable back in the day in the 70s and 80s. Was in the daytime, we would have the Cubs from WGN piped in because I lived in Decatur, Illinois. And then, because they were always played in the daytime. And then at night from KPLR here in St. Louis, they would pipe in Cardinals games. So I could watch Cubs games and Cardinals games, which were over the air broadcast growing up all the time. And so I just, and then when I lived in Kansas City, when I first got there a long time ago, then there was a channel called KSMO. Get it? KS and MO there in Kansas City. Yeah, those are colors. But they actually still carried the Royals over the air. So, now that I'm back in this area, I've been here for years. Don't get me wrong, I've been here a long time. But I love it when there's over the air broadcast. Like for instance, the last weekend, the Battlehawks were on channel 30. Then the Blues at one point were on channel 30 as well, and they were on. They've been on Matrix as well. So I'm hoping we get more of that. I just think it's really cool. Now, part of that's probably me being just a broadcast career geek, but I think it's cool when it's more accessible like this because you're going to see all the commercials no matter what. So why am I paying extra just to watch your commercials?
Yeah, that was the point of cable, if I remember correctly, was you paid for the service to avoid the ads, and they realized, well, we could just
we can just add the ads.
Now in streaming, you pay for the ad-free version, and Disney Plus will say, well, you're paying for ad-free, but a little bit of ads.
Right. Well, the original cable back when they brought it in was basically super stations from around the country. And then, of course, you added ESPN at some point, and then you added CNN at some point. But basically, like our cable was, the local channels and the WGN from Chicago, KPLR from St. Louis, WTBS from Atlanta, which is why so many people watch Atlanta Braves games and that sort of thing. So that was, Jay Monty from, so that was that was what the original cable was just a collection of other stations. And then you started getting, HBO and CNN and, ESPN and stuff like that.
So Fridays are just going to be our history lessons of everything I grew up without, basically.
Probably, yeah.
It sounds like you and JC might have some good conversations over
Probably,
that.
Yeah. And the funny part is I don't really know JC. I mean, he used to play in the baseball leagues, the old man baseball leagues there that I play in. So I've run into him a couple of times, but I've never really talked to him that much. That was long before we started this station here. So, all right. So I'm going to get into this a little bit more around 6:20. There's a bill that's got pretty bipartisan support to raise the age to get married in Missouri to 18.
Okay.
Because there are several states that allow this. So basically, if you're 16 or 17, you can get married now if at least one of your parents consents to it and the other person is under the age of 21. So it just feels a little weird and creepy to me. But honestly, back in, it wasn't that long ago that we raised it to at least 16 or 17. It was worse in Missouri. I mean, you had like 14 and 15-year-olds who were allowed to get married.
Yeah, the age was like 12 back in, a lot of the more medieval days. So it seems like it's slowly creeping up.
Right.
I'm thinking also from like the responsibility financial aspect of it. I mean, I guess if you're trying to do a shotgun wedding type situation, it makes sense. But how many 20-year-olds that are financially responsible and rationally minded are going out there dating 17, 16-year-olds?
Yeah, that would make them irresponsible in every other way. But the shotgun wedding is exactly the argument that some of the Republican lawmakers are making, which it's unique, but I just don't know why the same guys are still so intent on derailing a bill that says, no, you got to be 18 to get married.
Yeah.
And so that's basically the argument that they're making, and they're trying to pitch it as a pro-life thing when I'm having trouble with this.
Yeah, this is not a hill that I would be willing to die on.
No. So around 6:20, we're going to go into a little more depth on that. All right, we got news dump coming your way here, including a former infamous Congress critter facing the judge today. He's going to get bad news. It's just how much bad news is he going to get? I'll tell you about that right around 6:04 here on this Flashback Friday.
Love your couch but hate sinking into it? Custom Foam has your solution. We specialize in replacing your cushion foam with firmer options, firmer than anything you'll find in furniture stores, and a fraction of the cost of new furniture. Need extra firm support or soft cushioning for your back pillows? We have options you can test in person. From couches to window seats, dining chairs to custom projects. We'll have your furniture feeling like new in just a few days. We even offer same-day service. Visit custom-foam.com. That's custom-foam.com.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobblers, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
From townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. In what would be a landmark decision, the U.S. Supreme Court this week appeared likely to rule in favor of parents in Maryland who objected on religious grounds to books made available in their district's elementary schools featuring stories about gay and transgender characters. Tony Perkins is president of the Washington-based Family Research Council. He says such a decision would be a stark contrast with another ruling back in the year 1963.
The court ruled that reading of the Bible in schools, which parents could opt their children out of, was unconstitutional on the grounds that it might unduly influence children. Now scripture is banned, but books like What Are Your Words, Uncle Bobby's Wedding, and Pride Puppy are read to children with no right to opt out. This conflict is not going away. In fact, it's just beginning, and it may make the 50-year battle over abortion look tame by comparison.
This week's Supreme Court arguments over parental rights will be discussed in depth on the Salem News program This Week on the Hill with Tony Perkins, which will be broadcast beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time Saturday on the Salem News Channel. At every turn, it seems a federal judge waits to throw a roadblock in the way of the Trump agenda. A district judge in D.C. blocking the president's attempt to add a proof of citizenship requirement to federal voter registration forms. A $1 billion private school voucher program has cleared the Texas legislature. It's on its way to Governor Greg Abbott's desk. The governor vows to quickly sign it into law. Former New York Congressman George Santos to be sentenced today for fraud. Prosecutors want him to spend 7 years behind bars. The Vatican estimates that over the past couple of days, 130,000 people have filed past the coffin of the late Pope Francis in St. Peter's Basilica. Watching Wall Street, Dow futures are down 199 points and NASDAQ futures off 59. More on these stories at townhall.com.
You heard the news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange and listed on the big board. Millions of Americans like you are joining our news revolution. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top 12 news brands in America. Even President Trump says it's terrific. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax, and its audience grew 50% since the same time last year. Millions really are making the switch to Newsmax. If you want to be a Newsmax share owner, call your advisor or get more info at newsmaxinvest.com. Stand with Newsmax today for a strong America. This communication is for informational purposes only and shall not be intended to or shall not constitute any offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such offer, solicitation, or sale would be unlawful.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A little spot rain not out of the question this evening. Pretty low chance, though. Most stay dry, mostly cloudy overnight, and a better chance Friday for some rain. About a 60% chance for some scattered showers and storms in the morning to the afternoon. Looks like it'll dry out in the evening. Low of 64 and a high of 79 for Friday. Just have to dodge some raindrops from morning to afternoon. And then Saturday, mostly cloudy in the morning, then partly cloudy. A little cooler, though. A high of 68. A little warmer Sunday, partly cloudy, and a high of 75. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Jewels on Hampton, paying some of the highest prices for your gold, silver, diamonds, and more. Call 314-752-5000 or visit jewelsonhampton.com.
Hey, folks, the Clayton Sleep Institute and my friend Dr. Ojal back supporting free, common sense, conservative radio. ClaytonSleep.com. Treating the full range of adult and pediatric sleep disorders from sleep apnea to insomnia, restless leg syndrome, periodic limb movement, and narcolepsy. What an awesome place. New comfy setting for the sleep lab. ClaytonSleep.com, 314-645-5855. Better sleep, better life.
Tired of floors that don't stand up to real life? Hometown Floors has the solution. With 40 years of experience, they know floors. 100% made in the USA. Luxury vinyl, laminate carpet, pet-friendly, and built to last. Free in-home estimates, professional installation, and satisfaction guaranteed. Hometown Floors, making small business great again. Check us out at hometownfloorsonline.com.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Colombo and Company, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
We the people.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
It's not rocket science. Rocket science.
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
All right, a former congressman will learn his fate today. It's a matter of how much time will he spend in the slammer. And the basic cost of living is going up on the Missouri side. I've got some bad news for you again.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. All right. And the Blues make a statement in Thursday's playoff game. Let's go ahead and get you going on this Flashback Friday with the news dump.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out. They got all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
All right. I'm going to start with some breaking news out of Hartford, Illinois right now. Of course, here's what's going on. There is a medical helicopter that has crashed in town, an Arch medical helicopter on a training exercise is what we're told by the authorities in Hartford. Has crashed. I don't have any word at this point of injuries or hopefully not fatalities, but the helicopter hit pretty hard. I've seen pictures of what's happening, and that is in Hartford going on right now. And we'll keep you updated throughout the morning as we learn more about that. And on the Missouri side, a city police officer is recovering after suffering severe injuries on the job. This happened Thursday at Vandeventer and Bell Avenues in North St. Louis. So here's what's happening. The officer was part of the anti-crime task force, and was responding to a stolen vehicle call to assist other officers who were making an arrest when his patrol car and another car collided at that intersection. Police say his lights and siren were on when the crash happened, and they both went through the intersection. The woman who was driving the other car was injured, but apparently has been released. The police car caught fire with him and still inside.
Oh, geez.
You know, he got out. He's got multiple injuries, including a suspected broken femur. So that was a pretty hard hit. At the crime scene that he was going to, the arrest was made successfully there. All right, let's see here. In some national news here, this is getting to be interesting with these student visas being canceled and some students just being detained. Because they're being deported, and so basically they're not giving them a chance to run off.
I saw a raid, I saw video images of a raid being conducted on some sort of campus house where that housed a lot of I can't remember which of the pro-Hamas groups it is, but it was one of those. So this administration is not playing.
No, a group of Democratic lawmakers went to Louisiana to a detention center there where a couple of graduate students are being detained and are facing deportation. The Democratic lawmakers are arguing that the students are not guilty of committing any crimes, or in some cases not even suspected of committing any crimes. And they say the Trump administration is retaliating against people who disagree with the president. Florida Senator Ashley Moody, who's a Republican, was on Fox's America's Newsroom, says the president is just cracking down on those who pose a potential threat to the country, saying it's what the American people want him to do.
President Trump is standing up for the things that Americans want: safety, security, prosperity, a strong presence on the national stage, policy positions that put Americans, American businesses, American citizens first.
Okay, and this is all part of the Trump administration's crackdown on pro-Palestinian sentiment and demonstrations on college campuses, saying the White House is accusing, as we know, of the universities of tolerating and even supporting anti-Semitism, which I think they have been doing. I do think the administration needs to start watching their P's and Q's, though.
Yeah,
you can't get into a position where it's a matter of, you have this viewpoint, therefore you're a potential threat. We're going to go ahead and deport you. Now, you're here as a guest on a visa. That's a privilege. But we need to be careful how we do that.
We can't rest on the fact that, I like that particular guy got, whatever the story is, you know what, I'm fine with this. I'm okay. We can't rest on that. It still has to be, the methodology still has to be above reproach. Otherwise, you kind of get into these situations where, okay, now the Democrats can actually make hay. Now you put the Supreme Court in the unenviable position of having to rule on some of these things and making the administration look bad. Just if you just do it right the first time, and you get the job done, and you get it done so that they can't say anything about it.
Right. All right. Remember George Santos?
Which one was that?
He was the congressman out of New York, and George Santos is not even his real name.
The corrupto so and so. Yeah,
exactly.
The one that stole his voters' identities and spent their credit cards, right?
That's the guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
lied about his identity.
Yep,
did all kinds of craziness.
Yeah, the disgraced former Republican congressman from New York.
Didn't he start an OnlyFans?
I think he kind of did.
That's what I'm saying.
He's like he had like a side hustle years ago, I guess, as a drag performer. And, he's a really weird guy. Yeah. So he's scheduled to be sentenced today. He pled guilty to wire fraud and identity theft charges. That's the guy. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Good call.
He faces up to 87 months in prison, minimum of 2 years, but up to 87 months in prison. So he did a phone-in interview on Matt Gaetz's show on One America News Network. That's what Matt Gaetz is doing now. And basically saying he fully expects to get the full sentence. He just hopes that the judge will give him some leniency and grace.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So he's taking more responsibility than I would have expected from him, let alone, what we usually get from any politician caught doing something nefarious.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, I just hope the judge lets me continue OnlyFans from prison.
Right. Well, but here's the thing is I'm just saying
I just need to stand for my phone.
He's got, he lives an alternative lifestyle, which is his right to do.
Sure.
And that sort of thing.
We just weren't expecting it.
No,
he surprised us with that one.
Yeah, I'm just saying he doesn't seem that upset about being locked up in prison. I'm moving on next story. I'm just okay. Speaking of getting screwed, for those of us on the Missouri side of the river,
it's all content, baby.
That's right. Our electric bill's about to go up.
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah. There are hearings going on in my community. I think I made an appointment in my calendar to go to one of these things just because you can do it online now.
Yes.
Like you could just attend digitally. So I'm going to see what they have to say.
So the Missouri Public Service Commission has approved Ameren's request to raise rates as of June 1st. So the company says the typical household electric bill is going to go up about $14 per month.
Yeah. Now, to not to defend the government sponsored monopoly,
which is all it is,
that are the utilities. One of the interesting parts about that relationship is that they don't get to raise prices the way every other commodity does, which follows market trends, which follows just basic cost analysis that every business has to do. So they have to gather up all of their increased costs over a period of time and then go beg the government to allow them to do so. So the thing is, while groceries and every other necessity was able to go up however many percentage over that period of time, they had to sit there and take it and then have the accumulated years or however long it's been since the last rate change and then ask for that. So on some level, I get it. On the other levels, like, quit raising my prices.
Right, exactly. It's just cost of living going up.
Yeah, it's cost of living.
Because you build that in, that's going to mean your electric bill is going to go up. That means it's money that's not spent somewhere else.
Yep. And then every business, their costs are going to go up because they pay for electricity. So they're going to pass those costs on to us as well.
Yeah, that's just overhead that goes up there. All right, the Blues come out hot. Man, they dominated last night's playoff game against the Jets. They were up 3-0 after the first period, and they ended up winning 7-3. Pavel Buchnevich, I say that right? I think so. Right. Delivered a hat trick, and Jordan Binnington had 16 saves. Okay, so 16 saves. That's not very much.
That is not very much.
Which tells me, and if you watch the game, that means the Blues were in control of that puck.
They dominated the ice.
Yeah, the whole time. Yeah. So the Jets still have a 2-1 advantage in the series. Next game is Sunday afternoon at Enterprise. This is a noon game. On Sunday, like I said. Okay, so after a day off, the Cardinals are going to start the series with the Brewers tonight at Busch Stadium. FanDuel has that game, but it's also FanDuel's broadcast is going to be carried over the air on Matrix, which is channel 32.
Man.
Also, the Battlehawks are at home again this weekend, hoping to get back in the win column. They host the Michigan Panthers at the Dome Sunday at 6 p.m. ESPN's got that game. Battlehawks coming off the only back-to-back losses in team history.
That
has never happened before.
Wow.
For the Battlehawks. So they're pretty fired up. Linebacker Travis Feeney has a challenge for St. Louis here.
Battlehawk Nation, I'm sending y'all a challenge. Fill the dome, get to 40,000. I'm gonna dye my hair blue the rest of the season. Let's go.
He'll do it too.
Feeney, yes, he will. Absolutely. There are some tickets still available for Saturday's game.
I've had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop right now.
Mike Ferguson, Gabe Pfeiffer, Mike Ferguson in the morning. This is News Talk STL.
Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin God.
Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
Don't hate, don't vinyl. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Craving the freshest in town? Anthony's Produce is your daily destination for nature's finest. Start your day with warm, fresh baked Fazio's bread delivered daily. Browse our rainbow of quality fruits and vegetables, always fresh, always delicious. Hosting an event? Let us create stunning fruit bouquets and veggie trays, or treat someone special to our chocolate-covered strawberries. We proudly stock hundreds of locally made products, and yes, we even have seasoned firewood. Anthony's Produce opens 7 days a week, 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. at 701 Jungerman Road or anthonysproduce.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. The 80s. Excellent. Never been a decade like it. Never will be. It's Flashback Friday.
Well, we found in a place that really look at bad. I have a whiskey on the rocks and change up on the old jukebox.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the Morning here on News Talk STL.
Get inside out. We're gonna rock this town, make them scream and shout.
You just can't go wrong with the Stray Cats. Brian Setzer.
Yeah, I thought this was like a 60s song, to be honest.
Well,
but
it's a throwback.
Yeah, it's a throwback song. Yeah.
It's a flashback.
More
Flashback.
more 50s, really. Brian Setzer, because that was his thing. He's the singer of the Stray Cats and went on to form the Brian Setzer Orchestra, which did this kind of music as well.
You know, when people start bringing up throwback things now, it makes me sad. Like I saw some discussion about how Raiders of the Lost Ark was a movie made in 1985 or so,
right.
About life in 1936. So
that's true.
So
Yeah.
so if it was made in 2025, it would be about 1980.
Okay, you can stop talking like that.
Yeah,
man, that hurts.
Yeah, right. See, that hurt me when I saw it. So now I'm just spreading the love to all of us Gen Xers who are listening to our Flashback Friday music.
Oh goodness! All right, hit this. Okay. So I wanted to wait till you got in to have this discussion here, Gabe. So the question is, why are some Missouri lawmakers using a pro-life argument to defend underage marriage now? This is really, because we've touched on this because we're kind of like a little confused as to why there are some Republicans in the state legislature. I mean, they are fighting tooth and nail to stop a law that would say you got to be 18 to get married in Missouri. Now they're arguing that preserving the option of underage marriage is the pro-life position.
Why are you so passionate about this, Gabe?
Why am I so passionate?
So hard?
Why am I fighting so hard? Okay. So here's my steelman defense of those who follow that. This is, by the way, this is not my position.
No, I get it.
It is in favor. It is a law that promotes family formation, which is in decline. And also, one of the things that tends to happen with underage pregnancies is the presupposition that there isn't going to be any support. It encourages support in those situations by encouraging marriage.
That's basically what they're arguing.
That's the argument, and I don't think that argument holds water, especially while we're having so many discussions about basically age of consent when it comes to dealing with the people who want to trans our kids.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of our primary arguments is kids are kids and they cannot consent to permanent medical procedures. Well, a permanent legal procedure is getting married, right? Yeah. I'll say it has permanence.
It has a permanent effect.
It has a permanent effect on your life, even if you want to go back.
See, that's an excellent point. Because I mean, some of the lead proponents of this. Now there are Republicans who are leading with this as well, but some of the key leaders in this particular bill are Democrats. And if I were in the legislature, to me, this would not be a Republican or Democratic thing.
No, this is
it is an
easy.
Age of consent thing, but it is interesting that the Democrats who are involved in saying we need to make the minimum age for marriage to be 18. And I'm like, I have no issue with that.
Yes.
At all.
Absolutely. Yes.
At the same time, that same should apply for somebody who wants to get I'm trying to use a polite word, a disfiguring surgery or chemicals pumped into their body. That's the same standard. Now, I'm not trying to do a juke on that, but that's a great point of the hypocrisy that we see.
It is very bizarre now that I think about it, that a lot of the same people that don't want their kids reading certain types of books and they don't want drag queens coming and talking to their kids are like, none of that, but you can get married.
Right.
That's,
it's weird. Isn't it weird? Yeah. So, and that's my problem with it is that it turns that argument on its head, and it makes it really easy for the Democrats to call hypocrisy on us, because it is hypocritical.
Yeah. So what's happening here is, and believe it or not, there's some version of underage marriage allowed in 37 states, according to the article I found on this. So that's where one or both people in a marriage are under 18. And so here's what's going on: is the House has approved a bill that would raise the minimum age for marriage to be 18. But apparently this got really heated. There are some men in the legislature who are just fighting this tooth and nail.
I don't understand.
And remember, it was just as recently as 2018 that Missouri raised the minimum age to get married to 16.
Yeah, to begin with.
That wasn't that long ago.
And there were similar levels of fight.
Yeah.
On our side for some reason. I don't get it. I really don't.
So the way it stands right now, if you are at least 16 and you want to get married, you've got to get permission from at least one parent, not both,
right?
But at least one parent. And then the person that you're marrying has to be under the age of 21. So in theory, a 16-year-old could marry a 20-year-old.
Yeah. No. How about no?
Yeah. So literally 16, you could still be a high school sophomore.
Yes.
And at 20, you could be a college junior.
See, the thing is,
now, as you get into your 20s, 30s, 40s, that the age difference is nothing.
Right.
But at that time, that's something.
It's significant. It has its significance. But I keep thinking that we need to raise the age of majority to begin with. Like all of the things is, you know what I mean? Because our culture is not one that promotes people getting out of adolescence sooner rather than late. Like maybe back in the day, look, back in the day, our founding fathers were all in their 20s. You know, as we all think of them as old white guys. At the time, they were vibrant young men,
right? Except for Franklin. Franklin was older.
Franklin's always been old.
Yeah,
like I think he was born old.
He was born at the age of like 45.
Exactly, eternally 45. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I think times have changed, and we acknowledge that. But the thing is, our laws have lagged behind our societal degradation. I'll say it that way. Stop it. We get this hodgepodge of what majority means. It's like, okay, old enough to drive a car, but not old enough to drink. Old enough to go to war, but not old enough to go into a casino. Right. Like we have so many of these weird hodgepodge things. Just pick an age, make it majority, and make it majority for all the things.
Right. Yeah. So part of the argument here, of course, some are saying, hey, our grandparents, our great grandparents got, okay, well, your life expectancy was 38 or something like that. I get it. And you needed workers on the farm.
Yes.
But here's one of the arguments being made. And this was made by State Representative Hardy Billington, who's kind of from the Poplar Bluff area. He's quoted in this article as saying, at 16 and 17, when you're going to have a baby, you cannot get married. The chances of having an abortion triple. And so we all claim to be pro-life here in this body, claim to be pro-life. So how we're going to vote on this bill where babies are going to die if we pass this bill? I don't think that's a strong argument.
It's not.
First of all, you don't. Now, granted, I do think marriage is a better foundation, but marriage between a couple of 15 or 16-year-olds isn't something I think that we need to be saying that's pro-life,
right?
On that. And shotgun weddings, what the term shotgun wedding is: you marry her or
else. Yeah.
So it's but the idea that if you ban minors, if you ban children from getting married, you're not pro-life, doesn't hold water with me at all.
No, I know people my own age that they've been together for however many years, since probably middle school, early high school, and they've had abortions, but they've continued to be together after the fact. So I don't think that necessarily forcing somebody into a marriage at that age is going to have the impact. And then the counter argument too is, why cut it off at 20? What if it's a older age with somebody much younger like that as well? Wouldn't you, if it's pro-life, and I don't like the thought of this, but if it's a pro-life argument, wouldn't you want it if it was a 28-year-old and a 16-year-old to force them to get married so they would keep the child too?
Yeah,
Why
I mean,
is it cut off
but
at,
that's I mean, at that point you're into criminal territory,
right?
but I'm just saying,
yeah.
if that's
the
reason,
argument, right?
That's the argument.
Although if the age of consent, I don't know what the age of consent is actually. I mean, I would think that for
supposed
it
to
would
be 18.
I would
Yeah.
think, but
But in terms of what becomes criminal, I think they do have those
There's
Romeo
a-
and Juliet numbers, right?
Yeah,
and there's
a
the age.
Yeah, there's a rolling
range.
gap number on
Mhm.
that. Yeah, so
it's all stupid though. It's all
Yeah.
stupid. Look, it's not this. We keep having this trouble of not realizing that the times have changed. I mean, granted, humans don't change all that much in terms of human behavior, but the thing is, the conditions in which we are existing in our human behaviorness is adjusting. A 16-year-old in 1950,
right,
who she gets knocked up. He's like, oh man, I got to step up. I have to be a man now. Right. He could actually go and get a job and work full time and keep, his new wife as a stay-at-home, mom to raise a kid. And they could actually, he could build his own house with plans from Sears and Roebuck catalog.
That's true.
Right? So that was 1950. A 16-year-old is not raising anybody on anything or getting a house for anything. You know what I mean?
we're still telling kids that age to not eat laundry detergent.
Yes, seriously. It's like, don't follow the TikTok trend and put a spoonful of cinnamon in your mouth. Right. You know what I mean? It's like there are 20 somethings, 30 somethings who are still living with their parents anyway, right? So what would getting married change? Right. You know what I mean? In that situation, they would just be two people living in your parents' house rather than one person. Well, and then three when the baby comes along.
And so it's a much more fundamental question, though, to say, okay, at some point, what is an age of majority?
Right.
And then I understand you say, but are you going to have such a hard, fast thing that the law prevents? Some doesn't allow some kind of nuance or something, she's 17 and a half or whatever the case is. He's going off to the service when he graduates high school. I mean, there's always going to be that one thing in there, but I'll be really honest. I'm probably as pro-life as anybody on the radio in St. Louis, if not more so than any of the other main hosts in the area. And that's not to take away, because, the other hosts are my friends on the other stations and they're very pro-life too. But the idea to say, if you're against allowing underage marriage, then you're not really pro-life.
That's no
is a really insulting and stupid argument, and does not help the pro-life cause.
I reject it.
Yeah, it's not. Listen, I'm also the dad of a daughter. Now, she's now in her 20s, in her mid 20s, but I'm remembering back when she was in, high school. And, what would have happened, if she were in that situation, how would we have dealt with it? I mean, well, there's, a lot of different ways to do that, but I wouldn't be rushing to tell my 16-year-old daughter, you got to marry that guy.
Oh, yeah. No,
absolutely not.
No, you and the old man baseball team would have shown up to the guy's house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
We would, we'd have some, conversations.
Yeah. Responsibility would be taken.
Oh, yes, it would.
But it wouldn't necessarily result in a marriage license.
Right.
That's the situation.
Yeah. And so this is just like you said, Jerome, this is an odd hill to die on for some of these guys in the legislature. Mike Moon's another one who's, arguing, and he gets a lot of stuff right, but he gets a lot of stuff really weirdly wrong.
I think he was the one who was fighting that initial bill that changed it from 14 to 16.
Yep. Or 15 to 16.
15 to 16, sorry.
Yeah. Which is, strange to me. So,
yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it. All right, our good buddy Paul Curman going to be with us right around 6:35 here on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Rain chances bouncing up and down today. Most of us catch a break in the wet weather from late morning into the early afternoon before scattered rain and storms redevelop mid-afternoon into the early evening. Still warm today, a high up around 80. Dry tonight then, but considerable cloudiness with a low of 54. Saturday starts with clouds, but we eventually go partly cloudy, much cooler. Tomorrow's high 69, and then it's partly cloudy Sunday up to 74 after a cool start at 51. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Severs Equipment in Jerseyville is your local Polaris dealer, and they're making incredible deals on 2023, 2024, and 2025 units. Deals that won't require your wife's approval. Deals that will make you want to purchase two. Don't wait, because these Polaris models will move fast. Polaris ATVs and UTVs remain the number one choice for outdoor enthusiasts. Now is the time to get that toy you deserve, and now is the time for making deals. Stop into Severs now. Don't forget, they've also got a nice selection of used units as well. Check them out at seversequipment.com.
Mom deserves something special this Mother's Day, and News Talk STL wants to help make it happen.
Come give your mama a kiss.
Register now for your chance to win amazing prizes for Mom, including gift cards from Canditi's Catering and Express, Roman T. Jewelers, Freddy's Market, and Mario's Donut Restaurant.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Winners will be notified by email May 8, just in time for Mother's Day. Register now at newstalkstl.com or via the new News Talk STL mobile app.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michael's Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michael's Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. Carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, natural stone, luxury vinyl, it doesn't matter. Michael's Flooring is ready to help. 3 locations to pick from: St. Peter's, Darting Prairie, and Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloor.com. That's igotfloor.com.
Columbo and Company.
On Friday, we'll recap a busy week and get you the latest news heading into the weekend with Gabe Pfeiffer, Ken Williams, and the weekend forecast from Steve Templeton at 2:45.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. The 80s. Never been a decade like it. Never will be. It's Flashback Friday.
We are young, hearted to heart, we stand. No promises, no demands. Love is a battlefield.
Good morning, St. Louis. Hey, it's Vince from The Vince Show right here on News Talk STL every weeknight at 8. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Well, Pat Benatar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kind of funny. This video is kind of one of those emblematic 80s videos where, you know what, the guy's being a jerk and, you know, she's strong woman, hear her roar. And of course, all the women break out and do a dance at the bar.
Although I wish I had paid a little bit more attention to the lyrics before picking this one after we're talking about marriage.
Yeah, really.
Love is a battlefield.
Yeah.
Jeez.
They go into an angry dance where they've got their mean faces doing the dance.
Is that just how people in the 80s resolved conflict? Was just
Yes,
angry dancing
dance
at each other?
off. Absolutely. We danced
When do you
off.
bring that back?
And you did your mean mug.
Oh, yeah.
When you did a dance.
You gotta
'cause
do it,
You didn't smile. Dancing wasn't fun. Dancing meant something. Back off or else I'm going to bust a move. I don't know what I'm talking about. Never did this. It is 6:35 right now. Okay, so is there more chaos ahead for the markets, or has President Trump sort of backing off of a lot of the tariffs help settle things down? Because he really has backed off a lot of those. Now I think he's trying to save face in doing it, but the reality is that he's backed off on some of them, still threatening them, still wanting to hit China really hard, but having carve outs for just about everything and delays and pauses and all that sort of stuff. By the way, if you haven't already connected with us on social media, please do so, because we post stuff, 7 days a week, and there's always something to talk about. Joined now by former Missouri State Representative Paul Curman. Also, actually, you can hear you later on today. You're filling in for Jamie, right?
I am. Yep.
All right. Yeah. So we'll get a preview of that here in just a little bit as well. Now let me get to, because, you make your living doing financial stuff, to pay the bills, all that sort of thing, Paul. So, we've talked about the tariffs in the past, and I think everybody has had their say on what they think, of the tariffs, both as an economic tool, as a foreign policy tool, as a legal constitutional. So we've already had that. But the reality is Donald Trump has backed off a lot of those. I don't know that he wanted to, but he did. The more he backs off, it seems like the more things settle back down a little bit. You just can't deny that there was a big impact on the markets when he was threatening and enacting the tariffs. So how important is stability at this point, and what should we be looking ahead towards when it comes to, whether it's markets or just cost of living with tariffs and all that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you said it yourself just now that these tariffs have caused a lot of volatility. So a lot of the volatility right now is being steered by just whatever's in the headlines. The economic numbers that we've been getting haven't been that bad. Jobs reports have been okay. Inflation's continuing to come down. We'll be getting some GDP numbers before too long again. And so the economic numbers seem to be okay, but all this volatility is really just being steered by the headlines that are coming out of Washington, D.C. as it relates to tariffs. And the more tariffs seem to come down heavy-handed, the more impact that seems to have on the market, putting pressure on the market, driving it further down. And then, of course, when Donald Trump says, hey, we're enacting a 30-day, 90-day, or 120-day pause on these tariffs, well, suddenly all that pressure is released a little bit, and the markets are able to come back up somewhat. So I would be looking at these timelines that are being set by President Trump and his administration for what they're going to do next when it comes to this whole tariff discussion. So yeah, it's true. The markets have gotten a little bit of relief right now because some of these tariffs are off the table, but that's temporary. We're going to be coming up on a deadline, and I would expect the closer we get to that deadline, we're going to hear some rhetoric probably start to get ramped back up. And you'll probably, if I just had to guess, just based on how this conversation's been going, I would guess that we'd see the markets begin to get a little bit more volatile and choppy. Now, the markets needed this volatility because of AI and all the advancements in technology, and because of what's been going on with interest rates coming down and going up over the last several years. The market's really kind of been making its way out of alignment. And so we've needed a correction. We've needed some things to get sold off and for money to be realigned. So that's certainly part of it that needed to happen, but it's all being steered by the headlines. Pay attention to the headlines, pay attention to the deadlines that President Trump is setting for these tariff discussions.
Morning, Paul. Gabe here. So what's your take on all of this discussion about the Fed chairman, whether he should stay or go, or what he should do while he's there, how long he's going to stay? Personally, I'd rather we didn't have a Fed to begin with, but so what do you make of this whole situation politically and economically?
Yeah, Gabe, you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
If we could get rid of the Federal Reserve, I'd be all for that. I'm a sound money guy. I would much rather have a medium of exchange that's not manipulated by a bunch of private actors, but it's what we have right now. And Jerome Powell has been a pretty popular Fed chairman. He's been a pretty even keel. He's been responding to the markets in the right way. He's been responding to inflation in the right way. The thing is it's supposed to be a non-political office, really. They're supposed to manage the value of our money. They're supposed to manage the circulation. They're supposed to manage inflation. That's a big part of their mandate. They're trying to keep inflation at 2% per year. So that's just for everybody's understanding. The goal of our government is to devalue your dollar by 2% a year. That is the goal. But he's been doing a pretty good job with what he's been given and what he's had to work with. Now, because interest rates and the economy and the market is often what politicians use, a lot of times the Fed chair gets pulled right into the middle of that as though they're the ones that are wrecking the economy. And let me tell you something. I think that our money has a lot to do with the strength of our economy, but the rules and regulations coming out of Washington, D.C., either by Congress or by unelected bureaucrats at this point has a whole lot more to do with the strength of our economy. The Fed chair is not the one running jobs out of the country because they make it too expensive to meet the different regulations and requirements just to manufacture trailers in the U.S. or build wood stoves. So that's not the Fed. But I don't think Jerome Powell's going to go anywhere because he's had a lot of popularity just because of his approach and his evenness to tackle these different situations and deal with people along the way.
Yeah. Now, by the way, you mentioned the regulations at 7:05. There's a new report. I think it's called 10,000 Commandments. And Wayne Cruz from Competitive Enterprise Institute's commenting on how much these regulations are costing all of us as well. So you appreciate the built-in tease for that 7:05 segment we're going to have here. Visit with Paul Curman here. Okay, so with the Jerome Powell thing, what was interesting this week is, Donald Trump used, very Trumpian language. He's a giant loser and all this kind of stuff and wanted him out. And then John Kennedy, Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, was asked about that. And he just very calmly said, I'd prefer for the Federal Reserve to remain independent, and just gave a very low key, not slamming it. And, some other Republicans are going, yeah, I think that we need to do. And then the president sort of backed off on that, as well, which I think helped as well. Are we getting to the point where you've got Republicans in Congress in particular who are saying, we have to run on something in 2026. We can't just run on Donald Trump. So could we expect politically to start to see more Republicans sort of push back if they disagree, and not just simply be competing to be the most vocal soldier in the army that's commanded by Donald Trump?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question about strategy. And going forward, Donald Trump is going to be term limited out. He's a lame duck president now, if you want to put it that way. He's not going to be running for re-election. And for too long, since 2016, when people run, they've been trying to associate themselves directly with the Trump name. You see it on everybody's yard signs. Like, they think that just putting the word Trump on their yard sign as they're running for mayor or city councilman, that's just going to get them across the line. And
it's a magic spell.
The Republicans are going to need some wins, and we need to quickly as we can, because we have them. We have some wins. We need to start getting those wins, tallying them up, and articulating their value to our people. And that's what's going to keep us in office in the next election cycle, the next 2, 3, 4 election cycles. People want to see wins. I do believe that that running just based on literally name brand alone, it's worked well for Donald Trump, but I don't think we're going to see another Donald Trump. We're not going to see anybody else come out and be able to do it the way he did. And so Republicans need to start steering themselves into a strategy that allows them to sustain some authority and power in Washington, D.C. That would be the smart thing to do, at least.
Paul, speaking of sort of electoral prospects coming up here, we've been discussing around here, first of all, the disarray that the Democrat Party seems to be in, and their search for a new big voice, a new leader of their party, a new tastemaker, and how individuals like AOC and the like seem to be kind of rising stars in there. And to be fair, I think we might be underestimating AOC, at least as a political force, if not.
Yeah, we're not underestimating her intellect.
No, not at all.
We are underestimating her as a threat.
Yes,
politically. Yeah.
But at the same time as that's happening, like you said, Republicans need wins in order to run on. I think we might not be doing that as well as we could be. What's your take on kind of the future prospects? What does it look like right now?
I think the Democrat Party is about to become. I'm a little torn on this, guys, because they've made such bad decisions as a party. I'm not trying to give the Democrat Party free advice, but I mean, the writing is on the wall. For several years, as soon as AOC got elected, there was this. They kind of like held them off at arm's distance. But the problem is the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and they've let the squeaky wheel in the Democrat Party be the squad and the far, far less progressives. And now they've taken over the party with the advent of David Hogg to the leadership role that he has, helping steer the direction of the Democrat Party. For the first time, the party is saying we're going to primary out the old guard Democrats. Well, it's the old guard Democrats that I believe are the reason for anybody to continue to vote Democrat today. The rest of America, the Democrats across Missouri, for example, are not the AOC type. They tried that with Cori Bush. They are not of the AOC brand. So I think that the Democrat Party is engaged in a civil war right now. And if they're successful, if they're able to do this, then this will fundamentally change the Democrat Party, and there won't be as much infighting as there has been in the past, because they're all going to be in lockstep with each other in this very almost militant progressive left. If you watch these interviews with David Hogg, this is not a guy who approaches debate and discussion with a sense of stability and reasonableness. Like, this guy flies off the handle, like he's unhinged. And this is the guy that's leading the party and who is picking who it is they want to replace a lot of these old guard Democrats that have been in the party for the last 15 or 20 years. And so I think the Democrat Party is making a big mistake right now. But if they were to pull it off, then it's going to fundamentally change the shape of the Democrat Party, and there will never be any coming back from that.
All right, you're hosting Jamie Allman's the Allman Report here this afternoon at noon. What can we expect?
Oh, you can expect a lot more talk about this. I'm kind of fascinated with this particular topic because of what's going on, but we'll also talk about some issues going on in the state legislature, and we're going to continue this tariff discussion a little bit, and some other issues as it relates to national defense. There's some really interesting things happening. So that's what we'll be doing on the Allman Report this afternoon.
All right, good to talk to you again, Paul. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, bringing the update on everything happening around the area, including a little more information about this helicopter crash of a medical helicopter on the Illinois side, which happened just a little bit ago. We've got more details for you in the news dump just ahead on 1019 941 News Talk STL.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk, live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL.
Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a two-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
Witness art come alive at the Augusta Plein Air Art Festival, April 24th through May 3rd. Over 100 talented artists transform the scenic landscapes of Augusta into breathtaking masterpieces right before your eyes. Explore daily paint-out events at local wineries, historic sites, and the stunning Missouri River Bluffs. And the final day, May 3rd, enjoy the street festival with food trucks, more than 80 artist booths, live music, children's paint experience tent, and more. Learn more at AugustaPleinair.com.
Nate Lucas here for the Village Bar in the heart of Des Peres. Since 1948, the Village Bar has been the go-to destination for delicious food, cold drinks, and unbeatable atmosphere. Savor their famous wings, burgers, and onion rings, or grab a drink from their fully stocked bar. Catch all the big games and enjoy the company of their friendly staff. Plus, don't miss the 1879 Distillery, a one-of-a-kind experience right next door. The Village Bar offers the best value in town. Find the Village Bar on Facebook and come experience where history meets great times. You'll be glad you did.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
Coming up this week on Jeffco Patriot Radio, David Robertson back on for a huge announcement. Plus, a special bonus guest, local TikToker Kristen Saller, a.k.a. Cray Cray, a.k.a. me.
Jeffco Patriot Radio.
On News Talk STL. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. The 80s. Bueller.
The 80s.
Let's go while we're young. Never been a decade like it.
Shall we play a game?
Never will be.
Where are the dates?
It's Flashback Friday.
Knocking on his door. Little pig, let me in.
I remember this song.
Okay, I'm glad you, because I don't.
I couldn't resist. that one was requested by Straight Up, and check the date, 1989.
Okay,
it works.
Yeah. You mentioned that earlier, and normally I don't get a heads up on any of the Flashback Friday bump music, and I don't remember. Maybe it was on the chat or something, and I'm like, "What's that song?" And I have no memory of this song. And this would have been my '89 would have been my senior year in high school. So
Mhm.
I would have been like prime listing. I don't remember this one.
What really gets me is the little high voice,
Yeah.
not by the hair of my shitty, because I remember hitting that little section of the song with my friends. Like we would all, it was a hilarious little thing we would do.
I used to annoy my mom whenever she would ask me something. After I found out about the song as a kid, she would ask me like, "Can you go do the laundry? You go do the dishes?" And I'd be like, "Not by the hair." And she absolutely hates this kind of rock. So yeah, but
oh yeah, there you go.
Les Claypool from Primus and
Mhm.
Maynard from Tool are both featured as those voices. So
Mhm.
just a little bit of '80s music history, I guess. Right?
There it is. All right. A former congressman's going to learn his fate today. He's going to jail. It's a matter of how much time he's going to be in jail.
Yes.
And also the cost of living is going up on the Missouri side. That's all part of the news dump. We'll bring you up to date on that right now.
The morning news dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks. The morning news dump.
All right, I have to start off with some breaking news that's coming out of Hartford, Illinois. So just a little bit south of like Wood River. So, from downtown St. Louis, we're looking at about 15 miles from here. So well within the Newstalk STL listing area. We've now know that at least 3 crew members are injured and have been taken to the hospital after an Arch medical helicopter crashed.
Yeah.
This happened sometime overnight, but it crashed basically right in the middle of town
Mhm.
of Hartford.
It looks like it's in somebody's yard, really.
Yeah, it's right off of North Delmar and Date Street, and this happened last night overnight. And the helicopter's parent company, which is Air Methods, says 3 crew members were on board. All 3 of them have been hurt. The helicopters, and I mean, it hit the ground hard, but it's in bad shape. I mean, it was a hard crash.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing though that I did see, immediately when I saw the images, I saw that it had landed on its belly and it was upright. I was like, okay, they probably survived that crash.
Yes, and so far that's what it looks like. All 3 of them have survived. They are hurt, but the looks like the helicopter crashed shortly after takeoff. We have no idea why or what contributed. That's way too early to know that, but we do know that there was a training exercise involved in that crash. So we'll get you more details as we learn more on that. But as of right now, we know that 3 people have been hurt in that particular crash. All right.
Helicopters are hard to fly, guys.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I just to look at it, not knowing, how all that works, it seems like that would be really, really complicated because of all the different directions of the blades and all that sort of thing.
And you can't glide down.
Yeah. All right. City police officer in St. Louis is recovering after severe injuries suffered on the job. This happened yesterday at Van Deventer and Bell Avenue in North St. Louis. So here's what was happening. The officer was responding to a stolen vehicle call, basically to assist other officers who were making a felony arrest. When his patrol car collided with another car at that intersection, police say his lights and siren were on when the crash happened. The police car actually caught fire while he was still inside of it. He's got some serious injuries, but it looks like he's going to survive. But a bad situation where somebody did not yield to the lights and the siren is what happened right there. All right. Remember George Santos?
Oh yeah.
That guy's basically a cartoon character.
Absolutely. And he's an expelled former member of the New York Republican Party.
Right.
So yeah, he's nuts. He's absolutely nuts and criminal. He's a criminal nut.
Yeah. He, the disgraced former Republican congressman from New York, scheduled to be sentenced today. Now, he pled guilty to wire fraud and identity theft charges. He could get as little as 2 years in prison, but he faces a maximum of 87 months in prison. And when he gets out of prison, somebody will declare him a hero, and some third-rate, streaming channel is going to give him a job or something.
Oh, he's going to make the rounds on podcasts, I'm sure.
All right. For those on the Missouri side of the river, our electric bill is about to go up. Yeah. The Missouri Public Service Commission has approved Ameren's request to raise rates as of June 1st. The company says the typical household electric bill is going to go up about $14 per month. Now, that's as of June 1st, so you're actually going to see that on your first bill, likely July, when you get whenever you get that. All right, let's see here. The Blues, man, they come out hot last night. They dominated that game against the Winnipeg Jets. They were up 3-0 after the first period. They ended up winning 7-3. Jordan Bennington with 16 saves. Pavel Buchnet, I always get the name wrong, Buchnovic, had a hat trick and an assist.
Yes, nice.
So he was just dominating. Now the Jets are still up 2-1 in the series. Next game is Sunday afternoon at Enterprise.
I wish they'd spread the goals around a little bit.
Yeah, really save a few of those for Sunday's game, guys,
Yeah,
just to make
seriously.
sure. All right, the Battlehawks are at home again this weekend, hoping to get back in the win column. They host the Michigan Panthers at the Dome. That is Saturday at 6 p.m. ESPN's got that game. Battlehawks are coming off of I did not realize this. The last 2 weeks, they lost their last 2 games. That is the only time in team history that they've had back-to-back losses. This has been a very successful football team over the years.
I was going to say, I'm used to the opposite, where it's back-to-back losses, and then occasionally get a back-to-back win. You're like, whoa! You know, so.
No, the Battlehawks, man, this is the only time in their history they've ever had a back-to-back loss.
Here's hoping that's the last loss of the season.
Yep. So Travis Feeney, linebacker for the Battlehawks, put out this challenge to the Battlehawk Nation fans.
Battlehawk Nation, I'm sending y'all a challenge. Fill the dome, get to 40,000. I'm going to dye my hair blue the rest of the season. Let's go.
And Travis will do it too.
He absolutely will.
He will totally do that.
Yes, he will.
So basically what the Battlehawks, because they have never had this happen before, because it's been, just win-loss. I think they're the most successful team in the well, now it's the UFL.
Mm-hmm.
But now, obviously, they didn't win the championship last year. But what they're looking for is, are the fans going to stick with them after a couple of rough weeks?
Right. Yeah.
I think we will.
I think so too.
You know, there are some tickets still available. They really want to hit that 40,000. I want to see Feeney I want to see Trav with some blue hair.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
For the rest of the season, he's promising.
That's what he's saying. The rest of the year. So the next 5-6 weeks at least.
SR1 Sundays.
Aaron Dorr with the Missouri Firearms Coalition. I want to remind you to tune in to Shall Not Be Infringed every Sunday night at 9 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. Part of SR1 Sundays at 6 p.m. it's Stand and Fight with Senator Nick Shore, followed by Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser at 8. And again, Shall Not Be Infringed at 9. Then download the News Talk app and listen anywhere, anytime to 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
SR1 Sundays.
Sunday night at 6 on News Talk STL.
There is a speakeasy in Cottleville, but you need a passcode. So go to the Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook, get your passcode to one of the hottest news spots in the area. Amazing food, 7 hotel rooms, 2-bedroom penthouse, and a speakeasy. I got my passcode. Get yours. Let's enjoy the speakeasy in Cottleville. You get your code by going to Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
I am an atheist. I really am a liberal, but I'm also a conservative.
No matter your side.
I'm a Democrat. I'm just a bit angry, frustrated conservative.
No matter your inclination.
I'm probably a liberal, maybe more in the middle.
We are here for your place to talk about it.
I'm the progressive liberal Democrat that you said is afraid to call you.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
I'm sure we'll have a robust conversation.
News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
This hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. An explosive Russian drone has slammed into an apartment building in southeast Ukraine. 3 people killed, 10 others injured. Today's early morning attack comes one day after President Trump rebuked Vladimir Putin for a deadly missile and drone strike on Kiev.
Last night, I wasn't happy with it, and we're in the midst of talking peace, and missiles were fired, and I was not happy with it. That's what I meant.
Trump envoy Steve Witkoff expected to meet with Putin in Moscow today for the second time this month. Another high-ranking Russian military officer assassinated by a car bomb. Investigators say the lieutenant general was killed by an explosive device in a district just outside of Moscow. Small business, an important driver of the U.S. economy, could be in for a 20% tax cut. That's the goal of House Republicans, according to Ways and Means Committee Chair Jason Smith. Says there's no time to waste in getting her done.
America needs certainty. You're looking at 27 million small businesses that they're making decisions for next year, and they don't know if their tax rate is going to be 43.4% or 23 to 28%. We have to provide that certainty, and that's in fact what we'll do.
The Missouri Republican speaking with the Salem Radio Network when GOP lawmakers return to the Hill next week. He says the focus will be on passing President Trump's budget priorities. He allegedly set a pile of wooden pallets on fire and then took off. A 19-year-old New Jersey man is charged in connection with a wildfire raging in the state's Pine Barrens. Federal prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione, should he be convicted in the fatal shooting of the United Healthcare CEO. Mangione due back in court later today. On Wall Street, the Dow futures 147 points lower. More on these stories at townhall.com.
See, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into. And that's MetaShare. Maybe you've heard joining MetaShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month. And that's huge, but it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MetaShare works too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 844-41-BIBLE. That's 844-41-BIBLE. 844-41-BIBLE.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Rain chances bouncing up and down today. Most of us catch a break in the wet weather from late morning into the early afternoon before scattered rain and storms redevelop mid-afternoon into the early evening. Still warm today, a high up around 80. Dry tonight then, but considerable cloudiness with a low of 54. Saturday starts with clouds, but we eventually go partly cloudy, much cooler. Tomorrow's high 69, and then it's partly cloudy Sunday up to 74 after a cool start at 51. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Looking for a hardware store that treats you like family? Welcome to True Value Schneider's Hardware, your local gem in Old Town St. Peters. For over 100 years, we're proudly serve you St. Charles County, providing everything from lawn and garden supplies to plumbing and electrical. Need a bolt or fastener? We've got you covered. And don't forget, we're a steel dealership. Whether you need sales, parts, or service, ask for Charlie or Jerry when you come in. We're here to help. Call 636-278-4461 or visit us online at truevalue.com/Schneiders.
Is your pup in need of a spa day? At Pretty Little Paws, we believe grooming should be a stress-free, tail-wagging experience. Our one-on-one, fear-free grooming ensures your furry friend gets the gentle, personalized care they deserve. No noisy kennels or long waits, just love, patience, and expert grooming in a calm, relaxing environment. Because a happy pup means a happy you. Pretty Little Paws, with 2 locations in O'Fallon and St. Peters. Visit us online at prettylittlepawsgrooming.com.
Mike Ferguson,
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer,
I triple saw serious! Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
Okay, we know that high taxes drive up the cost of living, and we don't like those, and we get mad, and we pound the table, and we stomp our feet, and we should, and we push back against high taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that cost us a lot of money.
Right.
How about this? So do regulations from the government.
Oh, yes.
Those cost us a lot of money as well. So should we be pushing back against those as much as we push back against taxes, or at least many of them? I'm not saying all regulations, but I don't think a lot of times we realize just how expensive those are in our lives.
Mhm.
Well, there is an updated new version of a report that says, here's how much this is costing you. And it is a lot of freaking money. Okay. All right. I am Mike. We got Gabe here. We got producer Jerome here. It is 7:06. Mother's Day coming up. You want to check out newstalkstl.com for our Mother's Day giveaway. All kinds of great gift bags. And we're actually, the boss told me the other day, we're going to have more winners than we've ever had before.
Oh,
On
nice.
the Mother's Day giveaway. So that many businesses like, hey, this is fun. Let's do this. Go to newstalkstl.com. It is free to register. You don't have to be the mom to register because you can win something and give it to your mom and then just not tell her you got it free from a radio station.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. So check that out. newstalkstl.com. Joined now by Wayne Cruz from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. And Wayne, Wayne and I have talked in the past. It's been a long time. Appreciate you being back on the program. We're going to get into the 10,000 Commandments report. And I love the title of
Yes,
that because
it's
it
great.
just feels so overwhelming when the reality is that we know these are in place, but we've just adapted in our lives and we don't always feel how overwhelmed we are by the regulations. But this really is what you all are pointing out. This is really a hidden cost that we do feel an impact of every day. I mean, how should we be looking at these before we get into some of the specifics?
Well, you better believe it. These hidden costs of regulations are going to even make those free Mother's Day gifts cost a little bit more. So you better watch out. Regulation is like a hidden tax. And we know this year the federal government is on track to spend, if you can believe it, $7 trillion. The cost of regulations, that's economic, environmental, health and safety, labor, paperwork, things like that, growing all the time, and especially with spending in the wake of the CARES Act, the infrastructure law, the inflation law, the CHIPS and Science law. There's a lot of regulation that goes along with the spending, especially under Biden in terms of environmental regulation and things like that. So I tab up, I call it a placeholder. I tab up 2.155 trillion is what I say is the cost of regulation right now. Now that's based on old government studies, some academic studies, some business studies, things like that, a compilation, because our goal is to try to get the federal government to acknowledge this the same way you may hate the debt and the deficit, but at least you can look those up. It's not true with regulation. So my goal is to get the federal government to start measuring itself with respect to regulation. But that 2 trillion figure I use, just in context, that's about 16,000 per family in the U.S. If that 2 trillion is roughly equivalent to individual income tax collections, it's about 60% of corporate pre-tax profits, which are 3.5 trillion. So it's a huge number. And I think, and luckily, the DOGE project of the Trump administration, headed by Elon Musk, while that's targeting spending in some respects, it hasn't cut huge chunks, but it is standing on a few tracheas that, that are calling out for more and more government regulation and intervention in the future. So in addition to the DOGE going after spending, it's also targeting federal regulations. And I think that's important. Trump has a ton of executive orders this year. He's got over 100. I haven't seen anything like that since I've been tracking this stuff in 10,000 Commandments, but several of those orders deal with the regulations that we're talking about this morning. Not all of them mention DOGE, interestingly, and that's also appropriate because remember, DOGE goes away in a year. It goes away in America 250 around the celebration time. And a lot of the reforms are supposed to be in place. So I'll just say I appreciate you guys paying attention to this issue because I think if you're missing regulation, you're missing the biggest part of government's intervention in the economy. Even though I use a 2 trillion placeholder, I think the costs are far, far beyond that because the administrative state, or what you refer to, the deep state you referred to in the teaser coming in, is very, very widespread, very sweeping, and we don't have any brakes on it really.
Morning, Wayne. Gabe Pfeiffer here. So when I think of government regulations, I go back to a story I was told by a restaurant owner who said, depending on which agency is coming for an inspection, he has to switch which way the door on one of his, one of his passageways swings. So it's like, okay, if this agency comes, like it's got to swing this way. When this agency comes, it's got to swing the other way. And he literally had to spend time just getting those things done. And that's the kind of thing that comes to mind, along with the licensing for ladies who braid hair, having to learn how to mix chemicals. So what are some examples that people can kind of latch on to, then have in their mind when they think of, okay, this is government regulations, I can see how this costs everybody money?
Well, for me, if you're talking about like ground level regulations that drive you nuts, if you've bought a gas can lately, an EPA gas can, you know that you need 3 hands to operate it. I had to go on Amazon. It's got all these clickers, and you have to hold a spring release button down while you're trying to pour the gas into your car or into another can. You basically just have to go and buy an illegal water spout on eBay to replace it in order to make these things work. But also, big ones that really affect people are the ones, that create the dishwashers that don't wash dishes, where you have to hand wash them before you put in. Washing machine rules. There's now energy efficiency, energy conservation rules for all kinds of appliances and machinery and motors and things like that, up to chainsaws, walk-in freezers, all kinds of things. I would say, at the beginning you mentioned you're not opposed to all regulation. That's right. The free market doesn't mean that business can just run around doing whatever it wants to. You have to have basic rules in place, and you can't just think up a value, name an agency after it, and think that you're regulating. You might be doing more harm than good, and that's often the case.
And when you look into the 10,000 regulations, I mean, I get completely where you're coming from as far as like totaling up the cost of the compliance, everything. Is there a way to even conceptualize the unseen cost? I mean, a lot of these regulations probably keep some people from being productive and starting or growing businesses in the free market in the first place. So is it possible that we've got costs that we can't even measure because we stopped somebody from producing something in the economy?
Well, that can be one of the most insidious things. I mean, regulations can raise costs in the economy and create hidden effects as well as the ones you see just from outright bans. So it can make it harder for people to access capital. Labor regulations can make it much more difficult to hire the employees you need. I had put together a list in the report, not of regulations, but of statutes, and how as a small business grows from 1 employee to 5 employees to 10 employees to 20 and so on, that the regulations and laws pile up. And I think that is one of the advantages. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with DOGE right now, but at least by uncovering some of this stuff, by taking some of the rocks off and looking at what the federal government is doing, looking at the grants and subsidies and the interventions and just how much the federal government is funding cheerleaders for its own expansion, I think is going to make a big, big difference in going after some of these regulations that are weighing down the economy, weighing down production, weighing down job creation, and so forth.
Producer Jerome chiming in, talking with Wayne Cruz real quick. So what it sounds like is that small businesses and consumers are basically going to be the ones that are hit hardest with this. But is there anything you could suggest that we could do to prepare for this, or is it just a matter of waiting for the legislation to get through and deciding, where we're going to spend the money in the market next?
Well, it's not going to be fun reading for people to go and look at these executive orders, but I do think to the extent people are talking to their congressmen or complaining about things they ought to be complaining about, like tariffs and so forth, that they raise the point about regulation, because there is we haven't had major reforms in a generation. It's been since the 90s and the early 2000s that we did major reg reforms for small businesses. It was specifically called the Small Business Regulatory Enforcement Fairness Act, and we need that again. Part of the thing that brought that on was small businesses, state and local governments, governors, all complaining about excessive red tape, and they came to Washington, and it was a bipartisan effort to get those things changed. Now, it is the case that some of the legislation in play right now does have a little bit of bipartisan pedigree. There's a notion of a regulatory cost budget, especially sunsetting, which fits in already with what Trump did before on 1 in, 2 out, and what he's doing now with 1 in, 10 out. It's supposed to be the new. It's supposed to be the new pace. 10 regulations out for 1 new one. But if you can make that kind of change permanent, that's an important thing to do, because as soon as Trump left office before, Joe Biden wiped out the entire Trump regulatory streamlining agenda, and Biden called his memoranda modernizing regulatory review, by which term he meant getting rid of it altogether. Then it was just run away with progressive agenda on climate, equity, care economy, and so on down the road. Trump has brought back the regulatory streamlining, but in order for it to be permanent, Jerome, you would have to make sure that Congress legislates. And there are bills out there and some of them I talk about in the report too, but there's some bills to codify what DOJ is doing in terms of review and streamlining, sunsetting bills, having Congress vote to approve bills. Those are important things to do. So we've got some answers. It's just a matter of getting up the steam to do them and not getting sidelined so much by budget debates that we ignore regulatory ones.
Yeah, because we're visiting, like Jerome said, we're visiting with Wayne Cruz from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Last minute or so, we've got, we when you look at the last Trump term, I mean, there's a lot of credit, and rightfully so, given to the tax cuts for spurring on the economy. But that getting rid of burdensome and unneeded regulations had, in my opinion, probably as much to do with spurring on and unleashing economic activity, because it was truly more of a free market approach to the marketplace, and it was a pro free market, limiting government approach on that. So Wayne, the bottom line is, where do we find this report? Because there'll be a synopsis there that people can read that that is a little more digestible than going through everything. But I have a feeling once they read that, they'll want to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I appreciate that observation about regulation's role in efficiency and a smooth economy along with spending. And yeah, just go to CEI.org and you can find my report, as well as the great work by all my other colleagues here. We're trying to beat back the regulatory state and trying to maybe eliminate some of these rules rather than just trim them. Our founder would always say a pruned weed is a healthy weed. We don't want that.
I like it. All right, Wayne, great talking to you again. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for thinking of us.
You got it. All right. Of course, wouldn't that be really smart if somebody were to propose an automatic sunset on regulations and rules, because obviously things change, technologies change, economies change. And then also saying we need to go through all the regulations and try to weed out the ones that were. Did you know that was actually proposed by a political candidate in 2004 in Missouri?
That's crazy.
21 years ago, some guy running for lieutenant governor proposed that as basically his entire platform.
It's just crazy talk.
Can you believe that?
It's wild.
Some guy running for lieutenant governor.
I think his name was like Mike or something.
Yeah.
Or Matt.
That was literally my platform 21 years ago.
Yeah.
Was that.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. Start listening. People smarter than me are now saying it. Listen to them, please.
Silly Show.
Place your bets. Has Larry Connors ever met a pope? Find out Friday at 9:25 with Mr. Connors Neighborhood.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. Hey, DIY warriors, ready to transform your outdoor space? Start with Lee May Concrete Block, St. Louis's trusted family-owned manufacturer since 1947. Whether you're building a retaining wall, creating a backyard fireplace, or pouring concrete, Lee May's got you covered. From compact blocks to large cast concrete, they provide materials and professional guidance to bring your vision to life. Military and first responders get special discounts. Visit Lee May Block Showroom or LeeMayBlock.com. Lee May Block, building your dream one block at a time.
Are you sitting on hidden treasure? Manchester Coin and Jewelry wants to turn your valuables into cash. We are Missouri's premier gold buyers and jewelry specialists with years of expertise. We offer top dollar for your coins, antiques, precious metals, and collectibles. From gold and silver to clocks and jewelry, we buy it all. Don't let your treasures collect dust. Let Manchester Coin and Jewelry give you the best value. Visit online at buyingvaluables.net or come see him today at 141 in Manchester and tell him News Talk STL sent you.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-6766. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
And listen anytime, anywhere. The 80s. Never been a decade like it, never will be. It's Flashback Friday.
Just a girl, she's just a girl, the girl you want. Look at you with your mouth watering. Look at you with your mind spinning.
Hi, this is Susie Moore. Check out my show, Red State Radio, Sunday afternoon at 4, right here on News Talk STL. Now it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
We have had a little more of a punk vibe today.
Yeah, it's weird to think that Devo's technically a punk band in some regards.
Yeah, or at least they came from that.
Yeah,
you know.
But they've been growing on me a lot. I've never really given them consideration until Flashback Friday. Now they're in my playlist.
Everybody knows Devo from Whip It, you know, which was, you know, a big pop
That was a
thing.
phenomenon.
But there was a lot that came out of that sort of punk vibe, you know, sort of New York Dolls vibe that happened back in the day. It's kind of funny because, and Jerome, you'll see this as the longer you're with the show, is that each week the I don't know what happens, but the requests kind of take on a life of their own, and it's kind of funny how they kind of shift around, you know.
Everybody kind of feels the vibe and they move with it.
All right, 7:22 right now. Just ahead here, because we were getting a lot of thoughts on this here. There's still in Missouri this debate over, and I say Missouri, I mean in the legislature. I think if you ask around the state, for the most part, people are going to go, well, yeah, to get married, you ought to be an adult.
Yes, clearly.
But you don't actually have to be an adult in Missouri, it turns out, to get married. You can be a minor and get married in certain circumstances. And so there's a proposal to say, no, you got to be an adult to get married. And some of the most conservative members of the legislatures are the ones trying to stop that.
Yeah.
And it's been that way for years.
It's so weird.
It is.
I've never understood that fight.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah. But here's something else that's funny happened in the legislature. You ever, okay, let's be honest, guys. Us dudes, we tend to overestimate how dangerous we can be.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, right.
Oh, yes.
You know, you see the videos like and when I see the Reels videos and what's not, if it's like the guy, you know, guy F's around and finds out and there's somebody getting knocked out, I scroll past it. I don't like those videos anymore. I used to like, oh, that guy got what was coming to him. And I'm just like, I don't care for those videos. It was like the Karen videos. I just don't care for them anymore because I see somebody who's a complete a-hole and I get mad at them.
Right.
And so I'm like, I don't need that in my life. I just kind of scroll. But you like ask, like, there's a certain percentage, like, I don't remember what it was, but it was something like 8-9% of men like, no, I think I could take a bear.
I think I could do it.
You can't take a bear in a fight.
No, you can't.
don't even make a panda mad because they will mess you up. I mean, seriously, don't. You can't.
And what's funny though, what makes it worse are the occasional videos that show up in my feed, at least, that show the man being successful when he confronts the wild animal.
Right.
And it's cool to watch. I mean, when that dude punches the kangaroo in the face to save his dog,
I saw that one.
That's pretty awesome.
It is.
There was one where the guy actually took on a bear. Now it was a very, very small one.
Was this the one in his front yard?
No, this was one where he was, I don't know, he had his back to his back door or something like that. A bear comes to the back door. He crouches and basically does like a sumo push to get the bear away from him. And he's just like, get out of here. And the bear runs.
I saw one like 2 days ago where this family was and a black bear just walked right into the front yard. I mean, it was like, and the guy's like, get out of here. And he opens up the gate door. And he's pointing, get up. And the bear smacks him
on the thigh.
Right. Yeah. And then he walks off. And he's like, all right. And he's walking around. And the guy is doing like what I would do if I actually yelled and told the bear to get lost. And he did. I would puff up my chest and walk around like I am the toughest thing ever.
Oh, heck yeah.
When the reality is that if that bear decided to end you, that would have happened.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Did you know along those lines, it is technically against the law in Missouri to wrestle a bear?
Is it?
There's actually in our revised statutes of Missouri, it is illegal to wrestle a bear.
Well, what if the bear started it?
Well, I mean, that's what
they don't understand it's illegal.
And that's what was discussed in the legislature yesterday.
Oh no, they actually. Well, I guess you have to discuss these things.
Right.
It's what the legislature's for.
Now, without going into I didn't do a big history dig on this. My guess is that somebody wanted to outlaw the carnival acts for animal abuse type things like that.
Yeah.
Where they drug up a bear and let you beat on it or something like that. And so Representative Bill Harwick, who's out of Dixon, he offered to change the law to allow people to wrestle the bears if the bear started it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, well, I'm trying to get away from the bear. I have to wrestle the bear.
You have to fight off the bear.
Yeah. Depending on the species.
And
there's
right.
Because there's the species where you're supposed to play dead, and there's the species where you're supposed to make a lot of noise and get big, get as big as you can. Yeah, I always forget which one it is. So I carry a gun.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say basically, if the bear is brown, you're kind of screwed.
Yes.
Yeah, and then black bears, you got a chance.
Yeah,
they will still mess you up if they want to, but they're more timid.
Mm-hmm.
If the bear is brown, just lay down. If the bear is black, feel free to attack.
There it is.
Now
you'll
find me. Okay, so
now, by the way, that's not the official position of News Talk STL to attack a bear, but I get what you're saying.
Element of surprise.
But why's it got to be the black bear?
But now, is it illegal to hug them? Because if you ever find me dead in the woods, 9 times out of 10, I found a bear that I thought wanted a hug.
Guy, look at you. It's because they're
Yeah.
freaking adorable.
They
Even at 800 pounds of menacing apex predator, they still look cute.
They really do.
And cuddly.
Okay, so here's what happened. He mentioned that at one point he had a close encounter with a bear, which in rural Missouri is not that unusual.
Right, yeah.
Black bears are migrating. Used to be they kind of made it up through Georgia and Alabama, but now they're in all the way through mid-Missouri.
They're shifting further north.
They may be even hitting northern Missouri by now. And I'm looking at the Missouri Net article, and I was laughing this morning at my desk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quoting Representative Hardwick says, "I knew deep down that the bear was afraid of me." and the bear knew I could handle him.
The bear knew.
But the bear, also being familiar with Missouri law, knew that I couldn't fight back because of the law. And so that was not an altercation I was able to engage in.
The bear.
Representative Hardwick.
Okay,
Yes,
okay, good. Well done. The bear knew. Bear understood the statute.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And so, by the way, his proposal to change the law on wrestling bears failed.
Really? So if you encounter a bear and he starts it, you're not allowed to wrestle that bear. You can get brought up on charges for wrestling the bear that attacked you.
I'm gonna say, and I'm not a lawyer, but I'm gonna say if I have to fight back to save my life, I'll take my day in court.
You take the day in court. Okay, yeah.
That's
if you wrestle a bear in the woods and no one's around to hear it.
That's right. Did it really happen?
Did it even happen
there?
Yeah.
So it was. And
if I wrestled a bear and survived in the woods, I want it to be live streamed.
I was gonna say I'm bragging about it, man. You know what?
Everybody's gonna know.
It's like, how do you plead guilty and proud of it, Your Honor? Because I kicked that bear's ass.
Go ahead and call the ranger. They can't unwrestle the bear.
Exactly. You want to know how I got the scar?
Coming up in more serious news, with
Yeah.
Larry Connor's commentary, leftists believe radical will lead to victory, but how is it working so far?
Like wrestling a bear.
Not the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
Coming up on Larry Connor's commentary.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. You're listening to News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Rain chances bouncing up and down today. Most of us catch a break in the wet weather from late morning into the early afternoon before scattered rain and storms redevelop mid-afternoon into the early evening. Still warm today, a high up around 80. Dry tonight then, but considerable cloudiness with a low of 54. Saturday starts with clouds, but we eventually go partly cloudy, much cooler. Tomorrow's high 69, and then it's partly cloudy Sunday up to 74 after a cool start at 51. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com.
Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit VincentsJewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's Commentary on News Talk STL.
It should not surprise you that the George Soros Foundation thinks radical is a winning agenda. How did that work out in the last presidential election? How will it affect the midterms? July 2019, amid the Democrat presidential primary, Soros-funded non-government organizations, NGOs, using Soros money, got Biden, Harris, Sanders, and others to endorse a plan to decriminalize border crossings. Now the New York Times and other leftists are telling us how those NGOs were used to promote and support left views on policing, gender, immigration. All the time, they claimed they were working for the party working class. These NGOs were engaging in unions, churches, social clubs. But as one political scientist said, if you're an average NGO, now you need to say, I am a social movement. Why? That gets you more money. The same political scientist said, other than collecting money, they were not doing much of anything. Still another Harvard political scientist speculated NGOs joining with labor and churches would really end up being just clearinghouses for money, existing what? Just to launder money?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington.
Basement with a Y. That's Basement E.
It's Basement T.
Basement E?
It's Basement T.
Oh, Basement T. Basement T. I get it. That's the basement waterproofing and foundation repair experts at Woods Basement Systems.
Right. The all things Basement T experts at Woods Basement Systems will provide you a free estimate and dry out that wet basement and fix that cracked foundation. Call 800-388-9326 or go online to woodsbasementsystems.com.
That's woodsbasementsystems.com.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Like Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
The 80s. Excellent. Never been a decade like it. Never will be. It's Flashback Friday.
Hey, it's Aaron Dorr, host of Shall Not Be Infringed, Sunday nights at 9. But now it's more of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Flashback Friday, Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Oh, yeah. This is probably one of the most requested songs that I get
believe
from different people. So, you got to play it at least once.
Dexy's Midnight Runners, maybe, I don't know, maybe one of the best one-hit wonders of the entire decade. Anybody disagree with that?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't born yet. You know,
I can't. I was going to say, I abstain my vote.
Yeah. I think this may have been one of the best one-hit wonder songs out there. So, as always, really appreciate all of the requests that come in. We'll do it again next week as well. 7:36 here on News Talk STL. By the way, at 8:35, JC Corcoran's going to be on the program. And you're saying, wait a minute, the DJ? Yes, JC, who had just one of the more illustrious careers in music radio here in St. Louis, is back on the air, and he's back on News Talk STL starting tomorrow. And so the JC Corcoran's Wayback Machine is going to be on from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and we're going to get a preview of that at, about 1 hour from right now. I'm Mike Ferguson, got Gabe here, got producer Jerome here. Okay, so we just had so many people, about an hour and a half ago commenting on this, and I wanted to kind of come back to it because it's just weird. I just don't understand why there's a fight on this in the legislature. So as of right now in the state of Missouri, and by the way, you will probably be surprised to know that in 37 states, there's some level of underage marriage allowed. Now that could be very minor. That could be, 17 and whatever. But in Missouri, somebody can get married as early as 16 years old.
I was going to say that you'd be surprised to find out how many states have the age of consent at 16 or younger. Right.
And for this one right here, they're not allowed. They would not be allowed to go out and get a loan for a car on their own.
Mm-hmm.
They would not be allowed to. I mean, they're restricted on the number of hours they can work at that age. But they can get married if at least one parent consents. So let's say you've got, boy, girl, doesn't matter. And they're from a, divorced home.
Mm-hmm.
And mom says, you know what? Fine. You're in love. Go ahead and
I'll sign your
get married.
paper.
I'll sign it. The dad's like, absolutely not. They can go get married at the age of 16.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until 2018 that the law was changed in Missouri to bring it up to the age of 16.
Right.
We allowed it younger than that before.
Right.
So the legislature now is looking at a bill, and a couple of Democrats primarily are pushing it, and there's some Republicans on board who are going, yeah,
of course,
and what's really weird is that some of the guys who are probably, I would agree with on most things, are the ones who are saying absolutely not. We should not be raising the age of marriage. We can't make it 18.
And they're very passionate about it.
I mean, they're really fighting this. It's just a terrible look to start with. Secondly, now they're making a pro-life argument, trying to lump this in with the pro-life movement. And to that, I say, knock it off.
Yeah, seriously.
We have enough issue in Missouri right now trying to retain and reclaim, our pro-life status and save lives. Don't go lumping in people who want to marry underage girls.
Seriously.
I mean, come on.
I mean, you could characterize this as like the pedophile protection law, you know?
I mean, I want to be fair. Here's the argument that they're making.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a 16 or 17-year-old, kids. One or the other is 16 years old or 17 years old. Somebody gets knocked up.
Yep.
You know what? It happened in the 80s, and my youth group had a girl get knocked up. It happens. I mean, I think we all know somebody.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Who had that happen?
Multiple somebodies.
Right. And sometimes there's the shotgun wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the arguments that they came up with is, well, if you don't allow them to get married, basically a shotgun wedding, then they're more likely to have an abortion. Therefore, allowing underage marriage is pro-life.
Right. That's the argument.
That is, I'll use more polite terms, incongruent.
Yeah, it doesn't jive with the way we've been constructing our arguments on pretty much everything else. That kids are kids and they cannot consent to things.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, remember that whole the whole argument about the trans stuff, and we say, hey, hey, adults, do what you want with your body, but kids, you're not allowed to do that. Even if your parent consents to it,
correct,
it's still too far, right? That's very much an argument. It's still ongoing. That's an ongoing fight. How are we going to at the same time say, but if they want to get married to, Snake, they should be allowed to because mom thinks he's cute.
Right.
Well, and
his band's going to be big someday. It'll be okay.
Absolutely. He's very, very talented.
But not to get too slippery slope with it, but with what a lot of the argument from the Rainbow Mafia, the LGBTQ, whatever group has been pushing for. So would this provide a potential loophole for somebody that's 20 to say, well, I've got a trans 16-year-old boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever they call it these days, and love is love and all that stuff, as an excuse to inch closer into normalizing adult-child relationships?
Yeah, see, I don't think you even have to stretch that far, because there are activist groups now, including a couple recognized as NGOs in front of the United Nations, literally, like NAMBLA, literally, and you've got some professors who are now trying to say, well, stop calling them pedophiles,
right?
Or if you wanted to be minor attracted person, they would say that, or pedophiles, pedophile, because
that's how the Brits would say.
Well, you go to a pediatrician, you don't go to a pediatrician.
Yeah,
but there is a push within that movement to once again give an inch, they take a mile, which ruins a lot of support that they would have outside of that community. But yes, I think the short answer, Jerome, to your question is I think yes. On this, because as it stands right now, if you are at least 16 years old and you have at least one parent's consent, you can marry somebody provided they are under the age of 21. So in theory, a 16-year-old could marry a 20-year-old as long as a parent signs off on it.
Because let's be real, it's the moms bringing the kids out to perform at these drag shows. It's not the dads doing that. Hopefully not the dads. I would
rarely.
Rarely.
Unless
probably
unless it's both dads.
Well, yeah, precisely. But in that situation, like what Jerome's saying, and part of the problem is the dad's not there. That allows or leads to something like this. So in this case here, I mean, are there situations? Well, I mean, I'm going to be willing to say, well, there may be a high school senior, or I even knew somebody who wasn't quite 18 when they got to college. They had graduated high school. They were 17, that he's going off to the service or something like that.
Right.
Okay. I still think that's too young just from a maturity perspective. But they
want to make sure she can get on base housing.
They want to make sure that, she can go on base housing. She's covered, and whether they have a kid or not. So I understand that sometimes if you say this is the law, this is the standard here, or at the very least make it the law and say, although you could go to a judge and petition, for some kind of exemption or waiver at that point. But the standard is marriage. Well, I don't like the argument that marriage is just a contract. It's not. I mean,
it's definitely more than that.
It's more. It is a contract, but it's far, far, far more than that if we treated it the way that it's supposed to be treated. So I don't like that. Well, marriage is just a legal contract. It's not just a legal contract. But I do think that if we say, if you are not of the age of majority, where you're not allowed to do all these you're not accountable for what you do legally. If you sign a contract when you're 16 or 17, generally it cannot be enforced because you're not of the age of majority.
Courts throw those out.
Right. They're like, why did you sign on to somebody who's not the age of majority on this? So I think that saying that, no, you've got to be an adult to get married. And if you want an exception, we can allow for a court somewhere to judge it on an individual basis. To me, that allows for enough of the nuance so that somebody says he's going to ship off to the military, 4 months from now when we graduate high school, but we really want to get married. Here's, the case for this, the parents are okay with this, or whatever the case is. And somebody can look at that and say, okay, we'll give you a, I don't know, right or exemption, whatever you want to call it. I think that should take care of the problem. But basically standing strong and planting your flag and saying, no, we must continue to allow underage marriage in Missouri is, first of all, a terrible look. And it is a detriment to the pro-life argument when you make that claim.
One of our listeners online asked the question, is this rhino bait, essentially? Is this a plant of some sort? But no, the individuals who are fighting for these things are otherwise very solid conservative on pretty much every other issue. So sadly, no, this is one of our guys just going off. A couple of our guys just kind of going off on this thing. And yeah, we're just trying to understand it.
Right. And I can't, and I just think they're wrong. And I think it's especially when I'm like, okay, I can debate you on the issue, but don't bring the pro-life aspect into it.
Yeah.
This is it. Pro underage marriage is not pro-life.
Yeah.
Stop it.
It sullies the pro-life movement.
And it sounds stupid. Knock it off.
There is a very interesting discussion going on, though, about what the age of majority even means and how to define it, all that stuff going on in the Rumble chat right now. So if you're not already there, hey, join the conversation.
It's completely free. All right, hey, we're coming up on 7:50 on a Friday. You know what that means?
Not today, Satan.
Right here on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Come on, I need to ride. Come on, I need to ride. Now you've grown, now you have shown. Oh, I need. Sam, come on, I need. It's that I will ride. How you feel?
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here. Exciting things are happening at the Hideout in High Ridge, famous for the Sunset Patio, 4 big screen TVs, live music and events, and of course, the wings. The Hideout now has a brand new menu featuring handcrafted burgers and new items like their signature sunset dip and Dave's Chili. And now a second location, the Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course in High Ridge, featuring great event space. You can stop by for lunch or dinner. The new 2025 Hideout and the new Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course. We'll see you there.
Metro Shooting Supplies is a gun enthusiast ultimate destination. With over 400 rental guns, you can try before you buy. Serving Metro St. Louis for over 20 years, we offer the largest selection of new, used, and consignment firearms. Buy a new gun and get a free $200 range membership located at Fifi and St. Charles Rock Road. Metro Shooting Supplies, where shooting meets expertise. Visit buylearnshoot.com.
Attention, reptile lovers. Ready to discover your next scaly friend? Welcome to the Show Me Reptile Shop, your ultimate destination for fascinating reptiles and exotic pets, with 3 convenient locations in Troy, St. Peters, and Springfield. We have an amazing selection of snakes, lizards, turtles, and more. Whether you're a seasoned herpetologist or a curious beginner, we've got the perfect pet waiting for you. Show Me Reptile Shop. Visit us in Troy, St. Peters, or Springfield, and online at showmereptileshow.com.
Hi, Sean Long from STL Fence Works. A new fence or deck is an investment in your home and your lifestyle. But how do you ensure that you're getting the most out of that investment? At STL Fence Works, we know the key is satisfaction. Satisfaction means getting a fence or deck that not only meets your needs, but exceeds your expectations. Satisfaction means working with a team that cares about your project as much as you do. Satisfaction means having confidence in the quality of your new fence or deck, knowing that it was built with the best of materials and workmanship. STL Fence Works, your satisfaction is our passion. And for me, satisfaction is knowing that providing for your family is how I provide for mine. Visit stlfenceworks.com and experience the satisfaction in making your backyard dreams into a reality.
Just in concert at Busch Stadium about 5-6 months ago,
Mhm.
last fall.
Yep,
Sting,
yep.
yeah. From what I hear from the people who were there, put on an amazing show. Him and Billy Joel.
Wow. That
Yeah,
must have been killer.
that probably was.
Mhm.
That was that the one they had to get rescheduled because of the rain?
Might
I
have
think
been.
they had to it was going to be on a Friday or Saturday, and they had to back it up to a Sunday. It was something like that. But everybody still showed up, to the show at Busch Stadium. All right, 7:50 on a Friday. You know what that means?
It's the weird, the wacky, and the worrisome. These are the stories that make you say,
To call the devil.
Oh, hell no. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Devil.
Somewhere to be sure.
Not today, Satan. Not today. Amen.
Okay, later today, this evening, the Hollywood Palladium in Los Angeles will host possibly the most unusual sporting event you've ever heard of.
Okay.
The world's first sperm race.
No, God, please, no.
I'm scared now.
Yes, so is Jeff. Our
Jeff,
boss.
our boss. I'm scared now.
Yes,
Good night, everyone.
Okay, Sperm Racing, a startup founded by a team of young millionaires with nothing better to do, apparently, announced that the University of Southern California and UCLA will provide the microscopic swimmers for the inaugural competition. The startup said there will be 3 races captured via microscope camera. There's going to be play-by-play commentary.
Of course there is.
Provided during each heat. There will also be instant replays, leaderboards, and betting through approved partners. Because you can bet on pretty much anything.
You can bet on anything.
Yeah. So co-founder Eric Zhu wrote this about the event in his so-called Sperm Racing Manifesto. Quote,
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that he's single.
Yes. Single 20-something
Yeah.
tech bro billionaire, I'm sure. Sperm racing isn't just about racing sperm, although let's be honest, that's hilarious. It's about turning health into a competition. It's about making male fertility something people actually want to talk about, track, and improve.
Where do you put the gold medal?
Normally the one who wins the race gets to be born. Like that's generally how that works. But I don't understand.
Oh my goodness.
There are some people who have more money than sense, and it's wild to see them spend it.
How much alcohol was involved before somebody said, I have an idea?
I think there was more than alcohol involved.
Oh my goodness.
There may have been a white powdery substance in the room
kidding.
at the time. All right. So in our next story here, those are the types of stories that drive some of us to drink.
Yeah.
And a brewery in Belgium had their customers covered this past Easter when they swapped painted eggs for frothy brews with the world's biggest beer hunt.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
Yeah, celebrating Easter just the way Jesus Christ had
That's right, yeah.
envisioned, I'm sure, on the cross. The 5th annual Easter event at the Awiers Gardens in Lasny, Belgium, saw over 1,000 registered hunters searching the grounds for 12,000 hidden bottles of Lutgard beer.
Wait. How many people were entered?
1,000.
How many things could they find?
12,000.
Your odds are pretty
Your
good.
odds are pretty good there getting
Yeah.
the beer, and your odds are pretty good of coming out with a whole bunch of beer. And get this, hidden among the beers was a special golden bottle,
Okay.
which earned its finder a prize of his weight in beer.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, absolutely. So you could come away with like 12, 13, 14 beers from the hunt, one of which is going to get you your weight in beer in addition.
Wow.
So,
and
yeah.
like little kids, if you ended up not finding any of the beer, did you just like sit down and
cry?
Crisscross applesauce and start crying?
Yes, I think that's how that happened. Now the event began on Sunday with a chocolate egg hunt for the kiddos at noon, and the beer hunt then commenced at 12:30. Barbecue at 1:30 allowed the hunters to relax and enjoy some of their collected beer bounty. So yeah, that's how that goes. That's one way to spend your Easter Sunday, I suppose.
I'm not mad at it.
All right, now our last story here, and if that isn't enough boozy news for you, a team of British researchers studying chimpanzees in West Africa said they have documented the primates eating and sharing alcoholic fruit.
Yes, because sometimes because the fruit gets fermented.
That's right.
Just I saw this story.
Okay, so the University of Exeter team said cameras set up at the Cantones National Park in Guinea-Bissau captured the chimps sharing fermented African breadfruit that was later confirmed to contain ethanol.
Yeah.
Now, Anna Boland from the University Center for Ecology and Conservation thinks this might be evidence of yet another similarity to humans. Quote, "We know that sharing alcohol, including through traditions such as feasting, helps to form and strengthen social bonds," she said. So now we know that wild chimpanzees are eating and sharing ethanolic fruits. The question is, could they be getting similar benefits?
Well, that's the funny part is because I actually saw some of somebody put some of the video out there. Did you see some of that video?
Yeah, I see some.
And it was the equivalent of Bob, come here, man. This is good stuff.
Check this out.
I mean, it was like a hangout. It was basically a chimp like bar.
Yes.
It was. I mean, it was literally the dudes who were talking about the game or whatever it is. I mean, that was the chimpanzee equivalent of it. It was hilarious.
Yeah, now the researchers said it was notable that the chimps were documented sharing the fruits rather than eating them alone, because that's a big, usually they would, be kind of a food aggressive,
right.
Say if you get your little hoard of bananas, you're keeping them and you don't want anybody to have them. But with these fruit, they were like, hey, check this out. Here, pass me one, bro. Look, next time you're invited out for a drink, make sure it's with the usual bunch of apes and, as opposed to the literal group of chimps. Because when it comes to hanging out with drunk primates, you know what I'm saying.
Look all the devil.
Oh, hell no. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Devil.
Somewhere to be sure.
Today, Satan, not today. Amen.
Did you ever see that video of a squirrel that got into some fermented fruit?
Yeah.
And he was just like buzzed and he was leaning and he was almost falling over, but not quite. And then he catches himself on it. I don't know. I mean, and the thing is, can you imagine how grumpy, because chimpanzees are mean and they will rip you to pieces.
Oh, yes. They'll tear your face off.
They all had a hangover the next day.
Oh, yeah. They were not happy.
No.
They were not happy chimps.
Oh, my goodness. And do you see them up close in person? Like you go to, like if you go to the primate house at the zoo here in St. Louis, in some of those areas, it's just the big glass wall.
Yeah.
I mean, you're completely safe, but you can be within inches of these things. You don't realize how big these things are. So it's going to take a lot to get them schnockered.
Yeah, they're going to be eating a lot of that fermented breadfruit.
Right. And I don't know where you find that, but, that's their basically Moe's bar. The equivalent of Moe's bar.
So bring fermented fruit to the zoo for a good time.
There you go. You will be the most popular visitor there without a doubt.
How quickly do you think the chimps start brewing, their own out? It's like, it's like, don't touch the breadfruit. Don't touch the breadfruit. Let it cook.
Let it go. Let it go.
Let them cook, bro.
It's just starting to turn a little.
It's starting to turn.
It's like little cider starting to turn.
Exactly. Give it some time.
Oh man. Oh, good Lord. That was one of the most interesting, different, and frightening. Not today, Satan's. I think we're bad.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks and sports memorabilia and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa, and jewelsonhampton.com. Call them at 314-752-5000, 314-752-5000, and jewelsonhampton.com. Jewels on Hampton.
Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. Means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for the Great Window World. Just over the last 20 years of Window World being in St. Louis, they've improved the look and thermal efficiency of more than 76,000 customers in St. Louis. Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now Window World is now offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bell Fountain, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason.
Parts of President Trump's program aimed at ensuring election integrity have been stopped dead in their tracks, at least for now.
A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from immediately enacting some of the changes sought by President Donald Trump, including blocking a proof of citizenship requirement to the federal voter registration form. Voting in federal elections by non-citizens is already illegal, but the judge denied other requests from a group of Democratic plaintiffs, including refusing to block Trump's order to tighten mail-in ballot deadlines. Also denied was the request to stop Trump from directing the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, to review state voter lists alongside immigration databases. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The president tells Time magazine that Crimea will stay with Russia. The statement comes amid Mr. Trump's efforts to end the war in Ukraine. If he hasn't already, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has said he will sign a $1 billion private school voucher bill to receive final legislative approval. Conservatives say former talk show host Steve Hilton may strike a chord with a broad range of disgruntled California voters to campaigns for governor.
Former California Congressman John Campbell says when it comes to college tuition in the Golden State,
it is absolutely crazy.
He says white heterosexual Californians are now disadvantaged in college admissions, and out-of-state students pay higher rates, but for illegals,
you pay in-state.
And Campbell says the state just spent $10 billion in health care for illegals in a single year.
But all kinds of services that citizens need and get are being cut back.
Campbell was interviewed by the Salem Radio Network. Bob Agnew reporting.
Out of this morning's opening bell on Wall Street, the Dow futures down 166 points. NASDAQ futures are off 67. More on these stories at townhall.com.
You heard the news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange and listed on the big board. Millions of Americans like you are joining our news revolution. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top 12 news brands in America. Even President Trump says it's terrific. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax, and its audience grew 50% since the same time last year. Millions really are making the switch to Newsmax. If you want to be a Newsmax share owner, call your advisor or get more info at newsmaxinvest.com. Stand with Newsmax today for a strong America. This communication is for informational purposes only and shall not be intended to or shall not constitute any offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such offer, solicitation, or sale would be unlawful.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Rain chances bouncing up and down today. Most of us catch a break in the wet weather from late morning into the early afternoon before scattered rain and storms redevelop mid-afternoon into the early evening. Still warm today, a high up around 80. Dry tonight then, but considerable cloudiness with a low of 54. Saturday starts with clouds, but we eventually go partly cloudy, much cooler. Tomorrow's high 69, and then it's partly cloudy Sunday up to 74 after a cool start at 51. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Join the 10th annual Jeff Hansen Memorial Foundation Sporting Clay event, a day of remembrance and support for our veterans. Saturday, May 17th at Black Hawk Valley Hunting Preserve in Old Monroe. Compete individually or as a team. Breakfast, lunch, and shells included. By participating, you're not just shooting clay, you're supporting Freedom 13 and our veterans. Reserve your spot by May 9th. Learn more and register today at jeffhansenmemorialfoundation.com.
JC's got a new Saturday night show.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. 3 big hours of great tunes from the 90s, 80s, and 70s. Plus bits and pieces that'll take you back to the best years of your past.
It's our debut Saturday night at 6, brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group. This week, Bob Seeger talks about the worst concert venue he ever played. Spoiler alert, it was right here in Missouri.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy?
Gabe Pfeiffer.
There's something serious I have to tell you about the future.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
Will you guys knock it off?
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin.
All right, a former congressman is going to learn his fate today. It's not a matter of if he goes to prison. It's a matter of for how long is he going to prison. A basic cost of living is going up on the Missouri side. Everybody listing on the west side of the river, this is going to affect you. And the Blues make a real statement in Thursday's playoff game. Let's get you caught up before you get into work. Here's what's going on.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
Okay, first, here's an update to a breaking news situation that happened in Hartford, Illinois overnight, where a helicopter crashed in town. It happened on the corner of North Delmar and Date Street. Looks like late last night, overnight, essentially literally right in front of the fire station in Hartford. And at least 3 crew members. This was a medical helicopter. 3 crew members were injured. They're in the hospital now when an Arch medical helicopter crashed. And at this point, we don't know the cause of the crash. It looks to me like, just looking at some of the pictures, that there were some smoke and burn marks as well on the top of the helicopter. But that's how bad that was. We don't know. We don't know the condition of the people who were on board. It now looks, we are told that this was part of a training exercise, but we don't know what went wrong with that. So we'll have more information in the next, week or so on that. In St. Louis, a city police officer is recovering after suffering severe injuries on the job. This happened Thursday at Van Deventer and Bell Avenues. Of course, that's in North City. The officer was responding to a stolen vehicle call to assist other officers when his car was hit by another car, or he hit another car. So here's the thing. Police say his lights and sirens were on when the crash happened. So regardless of who hit who, the other car did not yield to an emergency vehicle with their lights and siren on. The police car actually caught fire while he was still inside of it. So for a little bit there, he was in there. He's got pretty serious injuries, including what they believe is a broken femur. He is going to survive, it looks like, but he's going to be in the hospital for a little bit as well. So scary situation there. The other driver was hurt, but not as severely. And it doesn't even matter really who had the right of way. If that light and siren is on, they've got the right of way.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention and get out of the way. I mean, I don't know how much more simple we can make this sort of thing here. All right. A group of Democratic lawmakers recently in a detention center where a couple of graduate students are being held. They're being detained there with the possibility of deportation. So the Democratic lawmakers are arguing that the students are not guilty of committing any crimes. In fact, they haven't really been charged with any crimes, and that the Trump administration is retaliating against people who disagree with the president. Florida Senator Ashley Moody, though, she was the one who was appointed to basically take over for Marco Rubio when he became Secretary of State. She was on Fox's Newsroom. She disagrees with him, and she says this is the president cracking down on those who pose a potential threat to the country.
President Trump is standing up for the things that Americans want: safety, security, prosperity, a strong presence on the national stage, policy positions that put Americans, American businesses, American citizens first.
Okay, so this is, part of the, I guess, the crackdown, you could call it, Gabe, that has, a lot of student visas just being canceled, being revoked, and the students told to get out. Now, the news copy here doesn't say exactly which 2 students. So this could be 2 who engaged in violence and, a whole,
property destruction.
And if that's the case, well, then bye.
Yeah.
But at the other side of this is like, okay, the Trump administration really needs to be careful, not just to start deporting people from college campuses just because they say something stupid.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing if, let's say, one of these visa students was on the sidewalk, on protest with everybody else, doing their chants, holding up the signs, even if they're saying something repugnant, even if they're saying something stupid, they're allowed to do that.
If they're otherwise being legal.
They're otherwise being legal, because, protesting is legal in this country. Now, if they they go in, they try to take over a building, then prevent people from moving around inside. Kids can't get to class, and they're saying no Jews allowed over in this part of the building, which we've actually seen. If they're damaging property, throwing garbage cans through windows and whatnot, which again we've seen in some of these situations, then absolutely. But here's the thing: you have to charge them with the crime, and then you say this crime is what constitutes a violation of the agreement that you made when you came in on your student visa,
which is a privilege.
That's a privilege,
it's not a right.
Yes,
it's a privilege.
If you're coming in on a student visa, there are basically the expectations in the paperwork that you sign is you're going to be on your best behavior while you're here, right? And if you're not, and we have proof that you were not, and that includes some sort of legal violation, then yes, absolutely, kick them out. But we need to do this right. You need to do it right. The process needs to be above reproach, so that when they scream, because it's not an if, it's a when they scream, oh no, you're just rounding up brown people and blah blah blah. Then you say, no, here's how this works. We're just following the law.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I think the Trump administration needs to start to be a little more mindful of. And I understand. Listen, it's a privilege. There may even be just at will, you could legally revoke that. I'm not arguing.
It's entirely possible.
When you're looking at the illegal aliens who come in from wherever, and then kill, maim, commit crimes, cost us a lot of money, that is an overwhelmingly popular thing with the American people, and I think had a lot to do with Republicans and with President Trump's victory in November.
There's even a lot of leeway for things that may be considered shady otherwise.
Right.
I mean, people are like, you know what? Just get them out.
We relate to that. We get that. The you come in here illegally, you don't have a right to be here. Once the due process should begin and end with, are you here illegally? Once it's confirmed that you're here illegally, you're gone.
Out you go.
That is due process.
Into the basket of the trebuchet.
Right. I think just if nothing else, in addition to the right and wrong aspect of it, the idea that, okay, college kids who express an opinion, even if it is repugnant, like you said, even if it is disgusting, like so much of this anti-Semitic, literal pro-terrorist stuff technically is. I think there are enough people to go, I don't like the kid, but do we really want to throw people out because they said something?
Right. Now, and here's one
Even
of the
if I
areas,
don't want that guy there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like these people.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I can't stand these people.
Now, here's one of the areas where it could get gray, because one of these statutes or agreements that's made when you come in on student visa is you basically promise not to commit acts to undermine America, essentially. And any lawyer worth their salt can argue this thing that you were doing over here undermines America.
Yeah. And then also I'm also willing
interests.
to give some leeway to say, if you're literally protesting in favor of a recognized terrorist organization, well, that goes to Ashley Moody's point, which I thought part of it was vapid, but the other part to say could be a potential threat. If you're protesting in favor of an actual terrorist organization, well, okay, yeah,
I think that counts.
That could be a potential threat.
I think that counts as you doing something to undermine the interests of America.
Just be very careful with how you do it.
Got to be real careful.
Yeah.
Now, you know what you don't hear about though is Americans on student visas to like Japan,
right,
getting caught up, in process of whatever the heck Japan is doing.
Yeah.
You know why? Because that's stupid, and they would absolutely enforce the crap out of their laws.
Yep.
To be fair, though, there is a stereotype about American tourists.
Oh yeah, there is.
Now the tourists, absolutely, the tourists is stupid.
Oh, the ugly American thing. There's way too many Americans who back that up.
That's for real.
That's for real. When I was in Europe several years ago, there's a couple times we were like, so you get the ugly Americans, like. Yeah, we see that sometimes. I mean, literally, Rachel and I were very careful to not be the ugly Americans.
Yes.
To not do that. But it happens.
Yeah, just recognize you're a guest in somebody else's house, and they do things differently there.
Yeah.
You're not getting ice for your drink. I'm sorry. They don't do that here.
Right. Exactly. All right, you guys remember George Santos? The disgraced former Republican congressman from New York is scheduled to be sentenced today. Here in just a little bit. He pled guilty to wire fraud and identity theft charges. He faces between 2 years and 87 months in prison. He did an interview with Matt Gaetz yesterday on One America Network, where he said he fully expects that the judge is going to give him the maximum sentence, and he's asking for leniency. So he said he's resigned to that. And then if something less happens, he'll be excited. First of all, why he would call into Matt Gaetz' show to talk about that, I haven't the slightest idea. But he did that on that program. And George Santos, once you finish there, please do everybody and yourself a favor. Go away.
Disappear.
Just disappear.
Yeah.
Just get a job somewhere and
sell
go
insurance.
Away.
just be quiet.
Well, no, not with those convictions. He won't get a license.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Just go just go away.
Learn to detail cars.
All right. For those of us on the Missouri side of the river, our electric bill is about to go up, guys. The Missouri Public Service Commission has approved Ameren's request to raise rates as of June 1st, which means I believe that you're going to see the bill increase on July. It'll be the rates for June on your July bill. The company says the typical household electric bill is going to go up about $14 per month.
Boo.
In addition to everything else going up as well. Blues whooped up on the Jets last night. That was a 7-2 win. The Jets still have a 2-1 advantage in the playoffs. In the series, next game is Sunday afternoon at Enterprise. That's a noon game. Let's see here. Cardinals start a series with the Brewers tonight at Busch Stadium. FanDuel has that game, but so does Channel 32. They're going to carry FanDuel's broadcast over the air. Battlehawks at home again this weekend. They play the Michigan Panthers at the Dome Saturday at 6 p.m. ESPN has that game. Battlehawks obviously hoping to get back into the win column. And I tell you, the people in the organization of Battlehawks, they're worried that the fans are going to be fair weather and bail on them. We're not going to do that.
I don't
guys.
think we're going to.
Come on, St. Louis. Don't show up. Show up.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
That looks like we're giving Lindsay Lohan the keys to the minibar.
On News Talk STL.
Chris Arps here, and after Becky and I leave church on Sunday, we head down the street to Capriotti's to grab a classic meatball sub. And of course, for dessert, I get a giant chocolate chip cookie. I love Capriotti's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint by a lot, backed with our 25-year transferable warranty. Paint a house, shield a home. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, steel, aluminum, cedar, and more. We are the only coating company selected by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where all 3 episodes concentrate on unpainted brick. If you maintain or own a business with a tired-looking building, you owe it to yourself to look at Rhino Shield and our beautifully durable color schemes. Evaluations are free. We're making buildings pop and be noticed again, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks, exceeding expectations every day with our products, people, and performance. Now is the time to call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or go to 877-25rhino.com and see how honest and transparent we really are. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Springtime in St. Louis means one thing. That's right. Golf is back, baby. Sugar Creek Golf Course is located in High Ridge, just 10 minutes from 270 and Gravois. To book your tee time or to learn more about the special event and banquet facilities, simply visit sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper.
Hey there, Chris Cooper here, Serenity Wealth Management. Now, have you ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes in Washington and how it affects local rules and regulations taking place right here in the state of Missouri? This weekend, I've got a special guest joining us from D.C., political insider and lobbyist Carl Stark, joining us and talking a little bit about what happens and how it affects folks right here in the state of Missouri.
Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie. Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL. The 80s.
Bueller.
The 80s.
Let's go while we're young.
Never been a decade like it.
Shall we play a game?
Never will be.
Where the beat?
It's Flashback Friday.
Speaker Tim Jones here. Make sure you listen to the Tim Jones and Chris Harp Show every day from 4 to 6 p.m. But right now, let's get back to our early morning media mogul, Mike Ferguson, in the morning.
It's kind of funny because there's a lot of people that with Don't Stop Believing with Journey, they'll want to make fun of this, but it's got to be one of the most popular songs of all time in pop and rock music.
This is one of those where no matter where you're from or what your background is, you could probably relate to some element of the story.
See, but like Goat Lady says, I could never hear this song again and be okay. Why the hate? Why the hate for Don't Stop Believing?
What happened to Don't Stop Believing?
Oh,
that's weird. This is actually on the list of songs that Black people really like.
No kid, because the one part of the joke is that it's the white people national anthem.
It's a white people national anthem, but every Black person knows the song.
Yeah. There's a playlist that I found on Spotify. It's songs to get the white folk turned up.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's this, and it's like Sweet Caroline. Come on, Eileen.
Yep. That's right. That's right.
I want to see that.
If you're a Black DJ, you have to know these songs.
Oh yeah, I imagine so.
Mhm.
All right, thank you for all the requests for 80s Flashback Friday. We got a few more to go. And speaking of flashbacking, we've got the Wayback Machine with JC Corcoran that's starting tomorrow here on News Talk STL. JC is going to be with us, give us a preview of that. Maybe we can ask, why do people hate Jordan? No, I don't. All right, 8:21 right now. Got Gabe here, got Jerome here. Interesting law passed. This was state of Washington, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we've had a reparations debate over the years. At one point, if you go back to like the 90s, it was like, well, what will this look like?
Right.
And then the decision got, the debate got pushed into, well, wait a minute, do we do this? Or then, it got to a point where it was like, why are we even having the discussion? But the state of Washington, which is very deep blue, they go all in, and we're talking some big, big money. I actually think the governor's name there is actually Ferguson.
Yeah, I think it might be,
but no relation.
Like George
obviously,
Ferguson or something.
Bob Ferguson, I think it is. But he signed this into law, and depending on the color of your skin, the government could be giving you a lot of money.
Yes, to the tune of $120,000 in a forgivable loan, exclusively
which means they're just giving you.
They're just giving you the money. Right. Remember the forgivable loans that we had from COVID?
Yeah.
Those were gifts. So yeah, the $120,000 for Black only first-time home buyers.
Wow.
Yes, very specifically in the law, which just happened to be a violation of the what is it? The Fair Housing Act of 1968 and the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974. Just a few of the various laws that this thing violates specifically. So it's kind of
what
interesting.
Virtue signaling is this?
Yeah, seriously. So apparently, they decided that they were going to go full on the reparations train. They got to signal that virtue, and they're going to use the money from the various taxpayers in the state of Washington in order to fund their virtue.
$120,000.
Yep. Now,
but they're saying it's a loan. But when they're calling it reparations, and they say it's forgivable.
It's a forgivable
doesn't
loan.
that just make sense to say they're trying to talk their way around it to give people $120,000?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of the point of this money. It's just hey, look what we did for you, Black folks.
If you are mixed race, can you get like 60 grand?
You get half.
I mean,
yeah, you get some. Now I have I call them my nieces and nephews, but they're the children of my best friend and his wife. And now he's half and she's white, so their kids are quarter.
Right.
So they would only get 15.
Yeah.
But,
but for instance, in the state of Washington on the West Coast, particularly in California, back in World War II, Americans who were Japanese were arrested and put in internment camps.
Yeah.
They don't qualify for anything.
That's true. They get zero. There are living people who experience that.
Yeah. Or who died within the last 10 or 20 years.
I think George Takei, who from Star Trek.
Yeah,
he was among them.
he was literally interned. He was one of those.
Yeah, it explains a lot. It does. Yeah.
So, but I'm doing that as a comparison because when you look at this, nobody has to show that they were affected by slavery. Nobody has to show, obviously, they weren't a slave.
Right.
But they don't even have to show that their ancestors were slaved or that there was an immigrant. I mean, California tried something like this and fell flat on their face, not with the homeowners. They were just going to try to give out reparations. So in one place where you actually have identifiable victims of the United States government, and in this case, it's just virtue signaling to look and go, yeah, you're dark enough.
Yeah, seriously. That honestly, that seems to be like, do you identify as black? Yes. Are you are you a resident of the state of Washington? Yes. Are you buying a house for the first time?
Yeah.
Yes. Here, $20,000, $120,000 just for you.
Now, would Rachel Dolezal, would she qualify?
Oh yeah,
'Cause, I mean,
Dolezal.
See,
Yeah,
she identifies as black.
right.
So does
So-
she identify as getting a loan now?
If she checks the box, I mean,
Yeah.
come on, state of Washington. I mean,
Who are you to say?
who are you to judge?
I don't remember where she was from, but it was.
One more, and
Yeah.
so if Michael Jackson's still in line, would he have to pay back the loan?
He'd
in the
pay
later
back
year?
to-
Yeah.
He would be paying for the loans.
That's right. But yeah, I mean, and I mean, I saw the press conference, like, and the governor was like all excited. It
Oh,
was just
gosh,
a
yeah.
total leftist virtue signaling dance that he was basically doing on this. And at some point, you thought, well, wait a minute, didn't we move past this debate? Because even even some of the academic, I mean, you've got your fringe academic groups that just basically say, I'm of this group, therefore I deserve whatever I want.
Right.
But now people have got the courage to go, no, call me whatever you want. Call me racist, call me whatever the case is, because I disagree and I don't think you should get free stuff at everybody else's expense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, typically speaking, if we're wanting to talk justice, basically someone who has experienced a loss should receive some form of compensation from the person who caused the loss.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's how the law works. It's like, if you steal my car and you total it, then I need to be made whole via the law. So I don't know, your insurance company or somebody, it needs to come along and pay for my damages. Right. Right now we have a situation where there are no aggrieved parties still alive. No people who caused the damage alive, and so why are we even fighting about this? And that's just kind of the reparations part of it. Then there is the stupid government part of it.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably more relevant to today, just because there's lots of stupid in government to go around.
Oh yeah,
offering money just randomly for any purpose from the government tends to come with its own consequences. Now. We talked at length about what introducing government money into schools, into going to college did. It necessarily inflated the cost of college.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So what happens when you start throwing $120,000 loans out to a whole bunch of people who are just entering the market of home buying?
Yeah.
You're going to inflate the cost of real estate.
I don't think I've ever been to the state of Washington. In Seattle, I suspect, and probably Tacoma, I would suspect that housing is pretty expensive out there. But Washington has suburban and rural areas as well. Assuming that they're even in the neighborhood of what the Midwest is like, there are probably homes that aren't that much more than $120,000 in some cases. So literally at some point, it's, we're going to give you a home because of the color of your skin. And like you said, that's also going to eventually drive up the cost of home. I mean, that's how government works.
All right. I went to homes.com and just typed in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
The first home that was listed it goes for $1.4 million. Okay. Now let me squeeze
so we're
down.
talking about a 10%.
Let me
down
squeeze.
payment.
Let me squeeze down the price down a little to because they have a little chart that shows where all the price grouping is from 0 to $50 million. They're all kind of clustered in the middle. Okay, let's look at what the mean is. Oh, it's only $690,000.
So $120,000 though is you're looking at 15-20% down payment.
Yeah, that's a down payment.
That's a significant down
payment on the house. But you know what happens if you introduce a whole bunch of various $120,000 checks into the stream of customers for this thing? All of those prices are going to go up.
They're going to be, before too long, $750,000
easily. That's going to be the mean for the housing in Seattle.
But it's about justice.
It's about justice.
So
yes.
Are you tempted to move to Washington right now?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Now I am tempted because whenever they offer these things, I've heard various states say, "Oh, we're going to give you this much, and we're going to do this." And it's like, is there somebody I know out there
right
who would qualify as a first-time home buyer that I get them to buy a house and we could turn it into a rental property?
There you go. Or turn around and flip it.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, taxpayers are still paying for it.
Yeah, exactly. My motto is, if you write me a check, I'm going to cash it.
There you go.
Even if it's a stupid idea.
The one and only JC Corcoran back on radio in St. Louis, back right here on News Talk STL. We're going to get a preview of the Wayback Machine right around 8:35.
He took the midnight train going anywhere.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Rain chances bouncing up and down today. Most of us catch a break in the wet weather from late morning into the early afternoon before scattered rain and storms redevelop mid-afternoon into the early evening. Still warm today, a high up around 80. Dry tonight then, but considerable cloudiness with a low of 54. Saturday starts with clouds, but we eventually go partly cloudy, much cooler. Tomorrow's high 69, and then it's partly cloudy Sunday up to 74 after a cool start at 51. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Fox News commentary.
If you take out a loan, you got to pay back that loan. And if that seems unfair to you, it's called life. I'm Tommy Laren. More next.
National security is at risk, and China controls most of the world's supply of antimony, a critical metal for military and defense technology. Military Metals Corp is taking action and securing a Western-controlled supply with projects in Europe and North America. Critical minerals are the backbone of modern defense. Now's the time to pay attention. The stock trades on the OTC under ticker MILIF. Call your broker today or go to www.militarymetalscorp.com to learn more.
Take out a loan and you don't pay back that loan when you're supposed to, you will be in default and subject to consequences that come along with it. Welcome to the School of Hard Knocks. The Trump administration isn't playing around and will begin collection on those default student loan payments starting next month. You've been given a 5-year pass and that honeymoon period is over. If you don't make payments on your student loans, you will face garnished wages and other consequences. The crybabies on social media are hysterical over it. They just can't fathom the idea that they are indeed responsible for the money they voluntarily borrowed because Joe Biden told them someone else would pay for it. Well, this is a life lesson for those who prioritize eating out, self-care, vacations, concert tickets, and me time over repaying your debt. This process is not to pick on you. It's the reality of life, and you better get used to it now. I'm Tommy Laren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Laren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Experience the exhilarating atmosphere of a Cardinals game. Join the sea of red in the wave around the stadium. Feel the rush of excitement as a home run lights up the sky with fireworks, bringing the whole ballpark to their feet. Nothing beats the thrill of watching the Cards get the W with the final out at the plate. It's more than a game. It's an experience. Visit Cardinals.com for tickets and info. St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
There is no better way to enjoy America's favorite pastime than cheering on the Cardinals with your family at Busch Stadium. From the thrill of watching the game to the kid-friendly activities, food, and fun, the ballpark has it all. Make magical memories as you cheer together for every home run, double play, and Cards win. Your family's summer tradition starts here at Busch Stadium. Grab your tickets today at Cardinals.com. St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com. The 80s. Excellent. Never been a decade like it. Never will be. It's Flashback Friday.
Hey, this is Todd Showalter. Join me for the Right Mind Show on Saturday at 5 as I try to put some fun back into this wacky radio station. And speaking of wacky, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Again, thank you to everybody who's sending in the 80s bump music request for Flashback Friday. Been another fun one. 8:35 right now. Got Gabe here, got Jerome here. I'm Mike Ferguson. Now joined by J.C. Corcoran. I mean, I would say, let me introduce him, but everybody knows who J.C. Corcoran is around St. Louis. Legendary DJ career here in town. So JC back on the radio, back on News Talk. And I think, it's funny because I've had a number of my friends once we made that announcement saying, wow, they're really surprised. They're like, but JC's being on a News Talk station. I said, yeah, but it's going to be a lot of great stories. There's going to be a lot of great music. You're calling it the Wayback Machine. And so essentially for 3 hours, man, you're just taking us on a trip to where on Saturdays?
Well, first of all, hey, by the way, hello, Mike, and hello, Gabe.
Hey there.
Hey. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, very excited about George debuts tomorrow night. By the way, just to address what you said in the intro there, I've done a lot of News Talk radio.
Oh, sure.
I was on KMRX, I was in KTRS, I was on WGN and WLS in Chicago, and some of the stuff that I've done even before I got to St. Louis, way back in the days of hieroglyphics, cave drawings and things like that when I started. I did a lot of stuff and people just didn't know about it because they just are familiar with what I did in St. Louis. But anyhow, the gist of the whole thing is this. You have these corporate controlled radio stations in St. Louis, all of them. One's worse than the next. And they have these playlists that have whittled down to about 350 songs. And they are just told, there's your songs, play them over and over and over again. And that's why there's so much repetition and why it's so annoying. Well, over the years, especially we focus on 90s, 80s, 70s on the Wayback Machine, all these songs that you knew and that you loved and that you sang along with, while you're driving down Watson Road on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, those songs were all gone because they didn't make the cut. Excuse me. So what we're doing is we're pulling those out of the trash bin and putting them on the air. We were talking about the fact that, you might just pick anybody, Billy Idol.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what are you going to hear? You're going to hear White Wedding. You're going to hear it over and over and over and over again. All right. But The Cradle of Love and Eyes Without a Face, stuff like that. Pretenders. Maybe you hear, Brass in Pocket over and over and over again. But Pretenders have a lot of great songs. Steve Winwood, The Fix, Don Henley, Bob Seger. Bob Seger, by the way, we do a thing called the A-List Interview. And these are big names. I mean, we're talking Eric Clapton, Paul McCartney, Don McLean, people like that. We're starting off tomorrow night with Bob Seger. And he talks about the worst concert venue he ever played in his life. And you'll never guess what state it was in.
Oh, my goodness.
Guess.
Please, don't tell me it was Missouri.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, man.
So he's going to talk about that. And along with the music of the 90s, 80s, 70s, so it's going to be a real heavy dose of pop culture from the era. At one point before everything went digital, Gabe, for example, how many VCRs at one time did you ever have in your house?
Probably two.
Two. Okay. Mike?
We had one, actually. We had no, I take it back. We did have two. We had one upstairs and one downstairs.
Yep.
Two. Yep.
I had 9.
Wow.
Whoa.
And they were always running. And so a lot of that stuff that I recorded over the years, I archived, digitized, and that will be incorporated into the show too. So you're going to get a heavy dose of pop culture from the 90s, 80s, 70s, a lot of old news clips. You might hear an old Glicks commercial or Mr. Guy or a newscast where, Deanne Lane is on or Huel Perkins from Channel 5, stuff like that. So it's really, we're flashing back to some really great stuff. I'm digging deep into the archives, and the show, it's not just me playing records for 3 hours. It's a show. It's heavily produced, and I think people are going to get off on it starting tomorrow night. 6 until 9 o'clock.
That's right. And Jerome, I'll explain this in more depth later, but a record is this round flat thing that we used to listen to music on there. Visiting with JC Corcoran. JC, just something about that sort of era. And of course, I mean, I was born in the 70s, reared in the 80s, and went to college in the 90s. And
we all know how painful that can be.
I know. I was saying there was just, everybody looks back and says that time was special, but there is something unique about that particular era, especially from the mid-late 70s to maybe the early. What do you think stands out about that just brings so much, positive feelings about it?
It was an explosion of creativity and originality at a time when media had really become the star. When my parents were young, and why is my alarm going? Oh, that's a reminder to talk to you. Anyhow, when our parents and grandparents were younger, we didn't have the proliferation of media the way it became, especially in the 80s and 90s. It was like you were walking around all day with Mary Hart in your ear, just playing over and over again. And with the explosion of creativity and the methods and the increasingly new methods of delivering all of that entertainment and news and data and everything like that, it was the perfect storm. All that came together. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say what people always talk about, the golden age of television being back in the 50s and 60s. Well, the golden age of electronic media definitely was, I would say, in the 1980s.
Mm-hmm. Producer Jerome chiming in real quick, talking with JC. So since I'm the younger blood at that station, from what I can tell at least, it definitely sounds like a nice walk down memory lane, but are you going to have stuff to contextualize it for the younger people that might be tuning in as well?
Yeah, there's some of that. Although, when you do a show like this, you have to assume that you're reaching your audience. And, I hate to sound all highfalutin about it, but there's a little bit of education going on in it too. I'm married to somebody who's 22 years younger than me. So, I go through this all the time. And I also have a daughter who's about to turn 16. So I'm always contextualizing this stuff for their benefit, because they weren't around. It was just like when I was in my teens and 20s, I didn't know about Eisenhower or much about the Korean War. And as time goes on, you pick this stuff up and you learn. It just depends on who you want to listen to. Hey, and before we go any further, Mike.
Yeah.
Men's Senior Baseball League?
Yes,
I played
sir.
in that league for almost 20 years. I just, I played down here in Florida for 5 years, and I just last year gave it up. I was still throwing in the 60s as a pitcher, still throwing in the 60s, but it was just getting too hard on my body. I was sore all the time, and you just reach an age where you're like, I can still do it, but my body just screams for 3 days. How long have you been playing, and what position you play?
I'm a catcher. And
oh, wow.
Yep. So I've been playing, pretty much other than a couple years off here and there, I've been playing since 1978, 1979. So so I just kept going. Yeah, I play on a couple different teams here in St. Louis. Now, you and I have actually crossed paths at a couple of the early preseason practices, years ago, but we didn't have any in-depth conversations. But yeah, so I've been a catcher.
Somewhere out there, perhaps Dave Eidelman is listening. Dave is,
right. Yeah,
what a name! If you play in the Men's Senior Baseball League, you know the name Dave Eidelman, who is probably his 80s now.
Oh yeah,
and he is. But he was a great organizer for the league, a great spokesperson for it. And what the hell? He gave me a chance, and I hadn't pitched in something like 37 years. And I go out there, and he's like, they'll never hit those. And he put me in a game, and I did well, and I'll be forever thankful. But it's like, man, as you become of a certain age, it's really important to continue to do stuff like that. Not just the physical activity, but also the passion, something to get excited about. We had a game on Sunday. I started getting excited on Wednesday. My heartbeat started, elevating. So it's really, really important that you continue to do stuff like that as you advance in age.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm playing in Edwardsville tomorrow on my 53 and over team. And then I'm back in, I think it's at DeSmet High School on Sunday with my 43 and over team as well. But along those lines, we're visiting with JC Corcoran the last couple of minutes we've got here, JC, is there's also a certain passion about that music and about that entertainment era. I mean, some of that's maybe escaping from all the high pressure stuff that's going on today, but there is kind of just a fun comfort zone. I wouldn't say retreating to, but just kind of re-enjoying again. It sounds like you're going to bring a lot of this back to life.
Well, yeah, and with regard to News Talk STL, some people have their eyebrows went up like, whoa, wait, what? And it's like, I tell them all the same thing. It's like, if you're at a concert and you're watching Phil Collins, just throw a name out, and you're at a concert and you got thousands of people, you don't care who those people voted for. You're enjoying the communal experience of seeing live music all together. Everybody's enjoying it. Nobody cares about what your political proclivities are, and that's basically the idea here. I don't have anything to do with the conservative talk program on the radio. I don't think they want me to either, even though I've pulled a lot more towards the center in recent years, and we can have that discussion some other time. But yeah, it's just something that everybody enjoys. If you're playing the right music, you're delivering it right, and you're having a lot of fun in between the songs, which we will. It doesn't matter what your political persuasions are.
Yeah, but especially, I mean, Bob Seger, obviously a connection to St. Louis as well. Looking forward to those stories. And then give me an idea, a couple of the other in the next few episodes. Who are some of these interviews you're going to be pulling out of this vault? Who are we going to hear from?
Oh, like I said, McCartney, Eric Clapton, Don McLean. For the most part, there are going to be interviews with music stars, but they won't all be. We have a great conversation with Ann and Nancy Wilson of Heart. Oh, wow. I mean, that's a particularly good one. They wrote a book called Kicking and Dreaming a couple of years back. It was sort of an autobiography, but it was also a great snapshot of music in the 1970s. So we have, stuff like that. And, I've got probably something like 200 interviews stored in the vault here, and we'll just be there. Billy Bob Thornton is going to be one of them. Tim McCarver. Tim McCarver was more interesting to talk to than you probably would have guessed, because he talked about the fact that after, they play a day game on a Sunday, and we're running out of time here, so I'll be quick. You play a day game on a Sunday back in the 60s, maybe, he had his hands swollen from Bob Gibson throwing fastballs all day. And these guys would all go out to a restaurant after the game and have a couple of beers and, have a steak and everything. And he said that he learned more about the game of baseball at those dinners than he ever learned in the dugout or on the field. So, one of the nice things about these interviews too, in probably at least half the cases, it's going to be people talking about their experiences playing in St. Louis, something they remember. Like Dennis the Young of Styx talked about the fact that St. Louis was one of the first and one of the only markets that was playing Styx records, back in the, I guess, late 60s, early 70s. And it really helped to launch their credibility in the music world. So almost everybody has a St. Louis story about how their musical careers and the city of St. Louis intersected at some point.
Man, this is going to be fun. JC Corcoran, the Wayback Machine, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, debuts tomorrow right here on News Talk STL. JC, man, appreciate it. Good chatting with you.
Thanks, JC.
Thank you. And we thank the Weber Automotive Group. Got to get the sponsor in too. And guys, thanks. We'll talk again soon.
Sounds great, JC. Talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. All right. I got some thoughts because like Ann and Nancy Wilson, their Heart is touring again this year.
Oh, really?
They're still touring after all of these years and these decades. I've got some thoughts on that as well. And it goes back to what JC was talking about with that golden era of media and essentially a lot of pop and rock culture. Let's do that right around 8:51.
You know that we have a locally owned, independently owned family jewelry store right here in the St. Louis metro region that can create unique pieces for your family members and your loved ones. Newstetter's Fine Jewelers. That's the one we have. Tim Jones here to tell you all about Newstetter's. You can find them 24/7 at wilddiamonds.com. I have been there a multitude of times, along with so many of my family and friends, because Newstetter's is local, family-owned, and provides honest jewelry solutions. They've been doing it for well over 50 years. You can find out everything they've got at wilddiamonds.com. That's Newstetter's Fine Jewelers, wilddiamonds.com.
Are you tired of hard chlorinated water drying your skin out, tasting bad, and ruining your fixtures? Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to this pollution. Our Hydratech H2O leaves you with great tasting, soft water at all fixtures in your home with one unit. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit us on the web at joneswater.com. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water, 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs Attorney at Law has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs Attorney at Law. Call 636-949-0010 extension 3 today or visit colecombs-law.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airwaves for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
With Larry Connors USA, you get news, opinion, analysis, plus an education.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning people.
Yeah, it was funny. J.C. Corcoran just mentioned Billy Idol.
Yeah, that was not intentional.
No, say that was already in the request here. I mean, I personally think Eyes Without a Face is my favorite song from Billy Idol, but that's not the most popular one. Everybody thinks of Moni Moni, the remake that, and then, or they think of White Wedding or even Cradle of Love, was really popular. I love Eyes Without a Face, Dancing with Myself, like this one here. Thanks for whoever requested that for 80s, Flashback Friday. But, he mentioned, he said, talking about people talking about TV being a golden age in the 50s, maybe 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at, for instance, media, whether it's digital or otherwise, or pop culture, you also, he says that really was kind of an 80s thing. Now, the Wayback Machine is going to be, basically sounds like 70s through 90s, but a lot of emphasis on the 80s. Honestly, I think those interviews and discussions are going to be fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, I don't think you were still here. Jim Florentine, the comedian, and he was, of course, one of the hosts of That Metal Show on VH1 for years. He was in the studio here. He was in with Vic a few months ago. He was performing out at the Funny Bone. And so I had a chance. Of course, that was great. The funny part was I happened to be wearing my Striper sweatshirt that day.
Yeah.
And he walked out recording something with Vic, a spot or something. He walked out. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" And so we had a great conversation. We were chatting and we were talking kind of about that, era. And there was just something about that era.
Yes.
And not only did we not fully appreciate at the time, but now we look back and we're like, that really was a great time. I mean, I don't know if there could have been a better decade to have a childhood than in the 80s. I was born in 71, so mid 70s through mid 80s was basically my childhood. And so that was it was interesting. And then JC just referencing, we're going to basically relive that and bring that back to life.
Right.
And that sounds like, honestly, a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, especially as a non, Missouri native. I feel like this would be very educational and almost let me engage in a period of history I probably wasn't even alive for it.
No, you weren't. I mean, you were born in 90 what?
95.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, you weren't even a thought at that point.
now, the other interesting aspect of it is the fact that he had all of those VCRs running. He's digitized our past, basically, and not just that, but like a local past. It sounds like, So we're gonna get some throwback. You may hear some things on that show that will put you back onto the shag carpet.
I was gonna say, okay, so when he was talking about that, I went back into my living room in my head, with that TV stand that you got at Kmart that you bolted in on the sides, and you had the VCR on the bottom, you had the big tube TV on the back
with the rabbit
you
ears
had to
floating.
That's right. You had to be careful when you pushed it around the carpet, because if you pushed it too fast, the whole thing would tip over.
Yes. Wow. It was very unstable.
You had to be careful.
Yes.
With that. But yeah, you
and
had
the 400-pound TV would fall.
That's right. And it was a big TV. I mean, even the little TVs were heavy.
24-inch screen, but it was like 400 pounds.
Right. It was funny. My first apartment, which was in Quincy, Illinois, when I was 17, I had one of those little, you could get them, even back then, you could get them for like, $9 or $10 at Kmart. The TV stand, the TV tray. But I had one of those portable black and white TVs.
Yeah.
You remember those?
Yeah.
It had the little handle
on it.
It was like a 5-inch screen with a big, tall antenna before the digital stuff came along. So you could just put an antenna and pick it up just like you would the radio, except you had a black and white. And if you were really fancy, you could get a color one, but I wasn't that fancy.
Right.
So I could watch, the local, and you had to dial tune.
Yeah,
for the TV stations
to get that analog signal to kind of line up.
That's right. And I could be on my second floor apartment and pick up, various TV stations in Quincy and Keokuk and Hannibal, right there in that tri-state area. And then, of course, when I went off to college, I could get them in Columbia, Missouri. But yeah, you could actually pick that before everything was digital. Now that wouldn't pick up a thing.
Yeah, no, nothing
other than like the space aliens.
Now, one thing that I went to when he was talking about this, you went to.
I went right to the
to the living room. I also was in the living room, but I was hearing and I was hearing the commercials. I was hearing the commercials from the 80s because I think they were epic. The jingles were a thing, and then of course there's TV intros and things like that, which we've done here actually from the 80s. But the commercials, man, I don't know what it was about those commercials, but even if you've never heard or you haven't heard the commercial for decades, there are some songs, if they start up, you could probably finish it.
Right.
Like is like the Double Mint song.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Things like that.
What's funny? What was I watching? Gosh, I forgot what I was watching. Just some show on one of the streaming channels. And it was an ad for a local business, but they brought back their classic ad. I mean, it was in the square screen. They literally brought back, it may have been like Mentos or one of those, but they had brought back one of the 80s ads, but that's actually the ad they placed as one that was probably 35 years old.
Yep. Now, it's one thing I like about Easter is because they always bring back that old Easter commercial about the the auditions for the Easter Bunny. Remember those? You got the lion with the bunny ears on it.
That's right.
That's an old commercial. That's an old commercial, but I love the old commercials.
All right,
I really do.
Speaking of old, Vic Porcelli coming your way here at 9:00. Oh, I'm in trouble for that.
We love you, Vic.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colony.
Sweet. I'll bring my